Hello, people. Hello, hello, hello. Today we're going to be on a panel talking about Israel and Palestine and the conflict that's happening there. And it's probably going to get very heated, but I want to go into it bringing good vibes. I think I can join right now.
For just at least 1.5 hours would be nice. But obviously, you guys are not obligated to stay for any length of time, obviously. But, if you guys leave after like 30 minutes, I'm not really inclined to invite you guys. That's just,
Wait,
that's just how it is.
So you're doing this until 5 o'clock in the morning?
That's correct.
Haven't you already been streaming for like 5 hours?
No,
Yeah,
I've just started streaming 30 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
Get
Yeah.
your
I thought
shit
you'd already-
together. Do better. We're
I was like,
complaining.
you've already been streaming for 5 hours. I was like, somebody's
I thought this
town
was, like,
got rid of
truly
their
insane.
Adderall shortage problem.
What the fuck? Who just left?
Like 7 hours is already insane to me, but 5 hours plus
A
7,
wise man.
that's too many hours.
Who just left?
I don't know.
No.
Not me. I can hear you.
It's Loner Box.
Loner box. Oh no.
I'm scared of the 7 hours.
Boner box. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey. Did you DC?
Probably.
How's your connection? Loner?
I think it's fine. My Discord just went a bit nuts, but I think I'm okay.
Okay. All right. Let me know if any time in the middle that you guys Discord is, not doing so well. I think that's everyone, right? So that is
I won't know till it's a problem. But
yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Where's the ninth one? So counterpoints, Fabian. I think Stardust might be just coming later. I think she might be dropping later because she is finishing up a panel. I think she let me know that. So I think we might just start without her for now, which should be fine. Yeah.
Nine's enough.
Yeah.
I think she has good takes. Or
Okay.
interesting takes because I do disagree with her, but I like her. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean,
Oh, she
she
didn't deserve that. Poor girl.
later on, Jesus Christ, we didn't even finish the word he went past. Yeah. So, okay, cool. So we're gonna start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Welcome to Food for Thought. I'm your host, Food Chops. My panels are based around what I love about Twitch politics: the combination of personalities clashing, intellectual debates, and blood sports, drawing inspiration from the old days of forum debates to the current days of discourse. All right, so today's panel is going to be about Israel and Palestine. To give a very brief history, on May 14, 1948, the Israeli Declaration of Independence was proclaimed by David Ben-Gurion, the executive head of the World Zionist Organization, soon to be the first prime minister of Israel. Following much fighting, factions forming, and breaking between many Palestine-aligned and Zionist-aligned factions, it ultimately culminated eventually in the infamous 1967 Six-Day War, where Israel gained military control of the West Bank from Jordan and the Gaza Strip from Egypt. Right now, the dominant militant political force in Palestine is Hamas, while the Palestinian National Authority exercises partial control over the West Bank as a consequence of the Oslo Accords. Here's how the panel will go. We will have our first wave of panelists, these lovely fellows here. It is my hope that they will stay for at least 1.5 to 2 hours. But, they are free to leave at any time if they need to, or stay longer if they want to. people who are in the weight room down there in the hall will be dragged in at my discretion, either after somebody leaves the panel and or at my discretion. Yeah, like I said before, sorry. If you would like to join the weight room, you can join the Discord server found by typing !Discord in my chat found at youtube.com/@foodshops or kick.com/foodshops. If I do not drag you in, then I have either missed you or there are simply too many people, which typically does happen, or I keep a certain number to keep the flow of conversation going. But typically, I'm very generous with who and how I drag people in. However, that generosity comes out of the price. If I find you annoying or disrespecting me even a little bit, I can mute you or simply kick you out of the room for the rest of the night. When I am talking, nobody else must talk, okay? So if you have been quiet for a significantly extended duration of time on the panel, I might also kick you without warning just to reduce clutter on the screen. But sometimes, if I'm feeling generous, I will send you a DM to speak up as a warning. Unfortunately, due to how long the panel is, I might also have very rare internet hiccups. If I somehow suddenly disappear or stream crashes, the flow of the conversation must continue, and you guys must keep talking. After all, there are probably multiple streams going on in there anyway. I'll probably ask a moderator of mine just to keep the drag-ins and drag-out smooth. My moderators will be Yoon, Emma Rosa, and Ratera, the only 3 people who are qualified to drag in, drag out people, may step in at any moment in the debate to take over moderation when I'm gone. That will be all. Okay, thank you. We will now go over every single first waiver here and introduce them all, as well as their brief 30-second broad position. We will start with, a first timer on this panel. Counterpoints. Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. In reference to the topic at hand, I think Israeli settlement is fucked up. I think what Hamas did is more fucked up. I think that it's a slow-rolling genocide that is going to result in Israel controlling Gaza, and basically we need to avoid the humanitarian crisis and as many dead bodies as possible while still basically avenging the terrorist attacks that happened within the past week. I can get into more detail, but I know we got a lot of people who are waiting to participate.
Okay, awesome. Fabian, Liberty, Scott, go.
So I'm Fabian Liberty, anarcho-capitalist. You can find me on YouTube or Rumble, or, find my booker, wink, wink, on Twitter. In terms of the position, oh God, I don't even know what I'm going to do in like 10 seconds of saying. I think most people don't understand the history of the conflict. They really don't understand what's going on. There's a lot of propaganda that people are eating up on both sides. I hate to be a both sideser in this situation, but like, fuck the state of Israel, but fuck Hamas like 10 times more. And I guess like we'll get into more of that. I mean, I'll just leave it at that, I guess.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, Lauren De Laguna, go.
As a Jewish person, I feel obviously a strong alignment for Israel because it's the only homeland for my people. It was created in the wake of the Holocaust. But during its creation, faced the 6-Day War. And so that being said, I have always been pro-Israel. I still am. That being said, I have been following some of, Israel's leadership on Twitter and various other sites, and I'm watching some of the just lies that they're putting out, and so it's making it extremely difficult to support one side when I don't feel like I'm getting a very good, accurate. I don't have a fair media. There's no media I can trust, and so that I can actually say that I know what is going on for real in Israel, which is why I haven't been talking about it on Twitter and I haven't been talking about it at all. So very similar to the first 2 people who spoke. I'm feeling a very strong both sidesism right now, but a very strong hatred towards Hamas, obviously, because I believe that they're a terrorist organization. But I have prayers and thoughts going to the Israeli people and prayers and thoughts going to the Palestinian people, especially because a lot of them are children. And that's it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, Loner Box, go.
First of all, fuck Hamas and all the white, privileged, soy guzzling retards who think it's a good idea to support them or who buy into this propaganda that they are like freedom fighters whilst they live in luxury in Doha and send their own people to die and like hide behind civilian infrastructure. That said, God, it's like I feel weird debating about what should happen now because it's kind of inevitable. Israel is going to launch a ground invasion into Gaza. We can already tell that they are operating on maybe a bit more emotion than sensibility, that they're using food and water as bargaining chips for hostages, that they might very well have used white phosphorus already. We don't know if they're going to manage a ground invasion. Ground invasion in somewhere like Gaza is going to be far more deadly than the airstrikes have been. It could lead to them getting stuck there whilst Hezbollah comes in from the north. I don't know. I guess we'll get into it in the panel. We'll see where it goes.
Awesome. Thank you, Loner Box. All right. President Sunday. Go.
Hamas is not the Palestinian people. And what is taking place in Israel right now on Gaza is unequivocally an act of genocide, and everybody who carries water for it is going to be shamed in a few years.
Okay. Thank you. Quibbles over coffee. Go.
Yeah, so I think that there's sort of two different directions this conversation can go. One conversation is sort of just to sort of play the blame game and try to figure out sort of how we got to the point that we're at. The other question that we can sort of potentially move the conversation is right now we're at like a sort of a 10 in terms of like the level of intensity that we're at. There's a lot of ways to get from a 10 up to an 11 or even up to a 15. There's very few ways I can think of that we can get down to like a 9.5. The most obvious one is what Iran and what Hamas was trying to avoid by having this attack happen in the first place, which is to say to get peace between Saudi Arabia and Israel. I think that trying to get that to happen is really, really important, even more important now than it was a week and a half ago.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Quibbles. All right. SDL, socked on left. Go.
What Hamas did was terrorist and extremely stupid and is going to end up hurting the Palestinian people in an extreme degree. What Israel is doing in response to the war crimes by Hamas is war crimes on an even greater scale. It's ethnic cleansing. If we saw it in any other country, we would call it that. Israel has killed more than 2,000 people. They have injured around 10,000 people. They've destroyed 10,000 housing units. They've displaced over 1 million people. It's gotten so bad that the UN lost exact count of how many people were displaced. They forced 1.1 million people to try and leave their homes in less than 24 hours. Yeah, this is ethnic cleansing.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, Smef, go.
Hamas is a terrorist organization. Israel is an ethno-state built on occupied land. Gaza is a concentration camp. Quibbles with Copy once told me that about atrocities that the Jews had committed during the Holocaust, and I told him that it was understandable given the context, but it's still never acceptable. There's no good guy in the Israel-Palestine conflict. Both sides believe they have a God-given right to a holy land, but rights are given by governments, not by God. The only way for them to express these rights is to forcibly seize control. They believe they're not equals to one another, and that the rights of one must come at the expense of the other. This is an illusion. Nobody actually needs an ethno-state to survive. Ethno-states are wrong, and if your culture requires an ethno-state in order for it to continue, what is the alternative? The alternative is that your culture is absorbed into the multicultural world that we are all a part of, and it will slowly disappear as a distinct entity. If you live in America, I'm proud to say you will become an American. I myself am a third-generation Greek immigrant, but I have virtually no connection to Greek culture at all. Greek culture is slowly but surely disappearing as the world becomes more culturally enmeshed. Does this make me want to return to my homeland or create an ethno-state? No, I'm proud to be an American. I was prepared to play on the guitar and sing, "This land is your land, this land is my land," but with some of the lyrics changed to be Israel-Palestine related.
Ooh.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you, Smef. All right. That brings us to our first subtopic. All right. So our first subtopic is this. Many pro-Palestinians base their arguments on the right of land based on historical context. On the other side, pro-Israelians base their arguments based on the right of Zionist principles and God-given land arguments. Do you support a no-state, one-state, two-state, or three-state solution? If you're guiding the masses of the people, what would you do to minimize losses? According to the background above, who has the right to the Holy Lands? How might they be divided up, if at all? Who has better reasoning? Discuss.
Well, I think the question is about 100 years out of date. We're not talking about any of the people who either made the initial colonization effort, and we're not talking about anybody who was alive at the time that was taking place. At this point, we're dealing with a population that has now been there for several generations, and another population that has been systematically displaced for that length of time as well. I think I don't know if you can even have a two-state solution at this juncture, principally because any two-state solution that would actually arise would not be a two-state solution in fact, but would be some kind of subject principality or just sort of zone that has perhaps some level of autonomy, but will fundamentally be subject to the more powerful Israeli state neighboring it. It would be extremely dangerous to erect an actual sovereign state with that level of just resentment within Israel's current borders. And at this juncture, given that we're on the precipice of a more or less total genocide of the population of Gaza or something, at the very least approximating there too, I don't see much hope for any positive thing at this juncture. It's just lesser degrees of catastrophe.
Yeah, I don't think any state solution makes any sense. Like, the only thing I can think of, what should NATO do? I think NATO should remove any citizens that don't want to be part of the Holy War, especially in the
Please clarify.
the place next to
Yeah,
Israel,
I'm very
Jared,
confused.
because people there are being rounded up to fight in the war, and if they don't, then their family's being killed. And I'm sure a lot of those people don't want to fight, but 5 years from now, once they've already been fighting, they're going to have friends that are killed, and it's going to be even more of a holy war, and more people will be sucked into the hatred and cycle of violence. So I think that
doesn't answer the question.
I think we should be evacuating people who don't want to fight in the holy war.
That's not the topic. Like,
That's
it's a
a no-state
subtopic
solution.
about
I'm okay with that.
This is a solution. That is the question. That is an answer. I don't think that. I don't know what agreement that Israel and Palestine can have that makes sense to me. I don't know enough about it, but one thing that I do think would help is to remove people who don't want to get involved from being sucked into a war they don't want to fight.
Okay, so you're just saying that refugees should be allowed to leave the location.
Yeah, back in
You're saying
Israel,
that refugees should be like accepted into Europe, that refugees should be
United
accepted
States.
into.
Yeah, refugees should be accepted into Israel,
not-
right? Because Israel respects the international right to accept
Your
refugees
answer
on
is
any
just
border, right?
Angela Merkel 2.0. Like, I don't like, what the fuck is this?
I think
like,
that if
how is
you're-
this answering the question?
I think Jordan. Currently, I have people in my life who have relatives
Jordan does not fucking want Palestinian Arabs. Not since Black September.
No, that's not what I was saying.
Like,
Nope. I don't think you're listening. I think you're interested in something other than listening. I think that I know that in Jordan they were rounding people up to fight in a war, and a lot of these people don't want to fight. And if you say no, I have close people who are close to me who have family that has been murdered because they don't want to fight and they tried to leave. So I think if NATO wants to do something to lower the costs of the war, we should help people in Jordan escape without being forced to fight in a holy war.
You're talking about
dude, this is just a virtue signal. It doesn't answer
it's not
the
a
question
virtue
of, like,
signal.
what state solution should we do?
I just told you I don't have a state
right to the land.
Nobody,
Well,
okay.
Nobody
has a great
question.
Okay,
then don't.
I already told you that I don't think in my opening statement. Nobody has a fucking right to the land. Nobody has a right to the land. They need to fucking agree. They're all fucking human beings. I don't agree. I think it is true. I think it is true. I think it is true.
Of course, it's not true. Both Palestinians and Jews have been living there continuously for literally thousands of years. Right? The idea that the people who have been, praying at the Kotel for literally 3,000 plus years, the idea that the people who have been praying at the Al-Aqsa for literally 1,600 years, that they don't have a right to do that, is just on its face absurd. Of course there are rights to the land.
I think that
So,
both
I mean, I
both
don't wanna
parties
get-
have both parties can claim that they have a right to the land, and I don't think that one supersedes the other. So I'm not concerned with who
That's
has the
I
right.
So,
saying that
Hold
neither
on.
supersedes the other is different than saying that neither one of them have
Well, the
a right
question
to the
that he
land.
asked me was who has a right to the land, and I think that saying, well, they
To which
both
you
have
can
a
just
right to
simply
it
say-
is a
right,
non-answer,
to which you
and
can
that's what
simply say-
he wanted me to
No, it's
stake
not a
out an
non-answer.
extreme
It's not a
position.
non-answer. It's not a non-answer because to say that Jews and
Look
Muslims
on his
have a
face right
right
now.
to
He knows that
play-
when I said
to
that
say-
he wanted me to stake out
say-
an extreme position, that is a fact, and so that's why I
to
said
say-
I disagree with the
to say-
question.
Okay.
I'm an
To say-
ANCAP.
to
It's
say
cool.
that-
I don't need you to take the extreme position. I got
to
that.
say that
It's
both
chill.
Jews and Muslims have a right to pray in Jerusalem, and also Christians, by the way, have a right to pray in Jerusalem is not an extreme position, number one. And number two,
Okay.
it's not something that like
Like,
is,
that's what I
is,
said.
Like,
I
it
said
is context.
that
It is a
is
relevant
that
component
is not an
of-
extreme position.
of the thing.
That's
There
not
are
the
lots of
fucking. That doesn't
people-
matter. Okay,
there
I
are
agree. I
lots of-
fucking agree that they fucking can pray at
Okay,
whatever
but the point is-
fucking church they want to go to. Move
No,
on.
it's not because
Semantics. I
that
don't
is
give a shit.
particular Site. No, it matters. There's a particular site, right? There are lots of Jews who literally want to rebuild a new temple, right? Literally want to take down Al-Aqsa. There are lots of people who are Muslims who literally want to stop Jews from being able to pray at the Kotel, right? The idea that this is not a site that matters immensely to both Jews and Muslims.
it matters
that this isn't a
immensely to
site
both.
that both have a right to.
Oh my
is
God!
on
Just
its face
steelman
absurd.
him for fuck's sake. He was saying that the people who don't want to fight should be able to fucking lead. That's pretty much what he said. And then he said, "Let the
everybody
fucking
shat
My bad.
assholes."
I
Let the
derailed because
assholes
it
sort
just wasn't
themselves
an
out.
answer.
That's what he
Yes.
fucking said.
Yes,
just
let
like-
the
yeah.
assholes sort themselves out.
It's fine.
Okay, maybe I interject. I think there are basically four main arguments here in terms of like the first half of the question.
You know I'm gonna fucking
Just like,
shit on whatever
who
you
has-
say.
That's cool. That's fine. If you're capable. It seems to me that there's kind of like four main ideas or concepts. Obviously, there's subcategories of like how a group, a collective, or an individual has a right to land. So I would say that there's the ethnic argument, right? Which often, if we look at DNA evidence and things of that nature, what we will find is that the Sephardic Jews are the most likely to be related to the individuals that were ethnically cleansed by the Romans, followed by Palestinian Arabs, followed by European Jews, right? So if you're making an ethnic kind of argument, then the Zionists that come through in the early 1900s are likely, at least in that regard, slightly less deserving, if you will, from that means of property establishment than the local Palestinian Arabs, but not necessarily the Palestinian Jews, right? These genetically, if you will.
Do you
would
believe in
have the most
reparations
highest of the
for
land.
black people?
Dude, that was like
I
one
believe
of
in-
the first four fucking arguments. But dude, can you just lay out the arguments instead
Yeah,
of
I'll be quick.
describing them?
I'll be quick on the third one. Right. So, and then I would say the second is religious, right? I kind of dismiss with this because it's not intersubjective. Then there would be the British mandate, right? If we're talking about political power, because Palestinian Arabs never had political power in the region until the British mandate, and they're never actually given any control until 95 in Oslo. And then lastly, I would say private property establishment through homesteading. And I think the Zionists probably have the strongest claim on the homesteading, at least against the idea of to the sea. And so, I mean, if we look at those four categories, I don't really see how you come across, unless you're making like an ethnic collectivist argument that like a very ethno-nationalist argument, if you will, that like Palestinian people have a greater right to Assyria, Palestine, than the Jews do. So I am curious as to the people that seem to lean in that degree, where they're deriving that opinion from, because I think it's kind of an open and shut case that, at least in some degree, both the Jews and the Palestinian Arabs, and maybe the dynasty in Jordan, you know, if depending on how you look at it, have a right to the land.
Does anybody here think that? Does anybody here think that
Think that they all have a right to the land based off of ethno-religious claims?
the Palestinians have the better right to the land? Does anybody here think that?
No.
I didn't hear anybody say that.
Okay.
Well, not based on
Yeah,
ethnicity.
that's
700,000 Palestinians were expelled after the 48 war, right? So like they have pretty close ties to the property they lost.
Well, here's what I would say: if we're talking about the Palestinians as an entity versus the Zionist project as an entity, sort of trivially so, but we're not dealing with those, and we're talking about what to deal with millions of actual people on the ground with families and so on and so forth. Like, we're not talking about an abstract question of which team gets to plant the flag. There are greater stakes than that.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about 2-state or 3-state solution and drawing borders, right? And one of the groups, right, the PLO or the Palestinian Arabs have this policy of rejecting whatever is put forward and refusing to govern themselves for 86 years. I do think it somewhat matters to a certain degree, establishing an idea that there is a right to the land upon multiple different forms of argumentation to both groups and specifically in areas that make sense to that, right? The kind of coastal and northern regions. If you're taking a more homesteading position,
I mean, there's two arguments.
Ultimately, I would say it was
so. The argument when it comes to
hold on, stop. I want to hear Lonerbox for a moment because he has not been spoken up a little bit, so I want to hear him for a little bit.
So the argument people make for
Sunday was going to.
The argument people make for Palestinians having a right to be there is not because of like ethnicity. It's because of the fact that 7 million of them in the diaspora, just less than 100 miles away from Israel and Palestine, were kicked out of their homes from 48, 67, and so on. And then their descendants, their kids and their grandkids, have grown up as refugees, and that refugee crisis has never been solved. And it's not a question of like innate right to the land or ethnicity or religion or anything. It's about human rights and refugees having a human right either to return or to get compensation and reparations. The second thing you said,
hold on. I'm not making that argument though.
Yeah,
right. Like I'm not making the argument that it is an ethnic argument. I'm saying of all of the different political factions, there seem to be these kind of 4 arguments, right? So like, the more ethno-nationalists or, civic nationalists, or maybe even the Nazis, right? Like they may make these ethnic arguments, as you will also see from the very, very far left.
Yeah, maybe, but I'm just saying. But I'm just saying that. But I'm just saying. I think like the steel man left wing argument of right of return is a human right for refugees, and people can debate over whether or not generational right of return should apply to refugees. It tends to not, but it does for Palestinians because their refugee crisis was never solved. There's still refugees in Lebanon, Jordan, etc. So that's just like the best steel man can give.
What you Jews, also right? Their refugee crisis was never.
The Jews also wasn't solved. Clearly,
well, it was. Like,
it's just funny, but
all of Europe, but
no, the Jewish.
Well,
the Jewish exodus. Wait, they have citizenship. They have citizenship in Israel. Yes, that refugee crisis was solved. They have citizenship in Israel.
Right, but that's my point.
The Palestinian refugees don't have. Yeah.
Yeah. So therefore, that is this. Okay. Yeah.
So that's why you would say that Mizrahijos don't have a right to go back to Iraq and take up land there because they're not refugees anymore. That's the difference. When it comes to the second thing, I think you said, Fabian, about did you say that the PLO or the Fatah have rejected every peace proposal? What did you say there?
I think you said the Palestinians haven't governed themselves in 86 years.
No, before that.
Obviously, I wouldn't say that the PLO or the PA. I said Palestinian Arabs, right? Because they weren't in charge during the Peel Commission in 37, right? Like, so obviously, like PLO isn't responsible for shit that occurred before they existed. But yeah, I would say, there's a pattern of rejectionism, right? That you might call it, of every 2-state or 3-state solution that is brought to the leadership of Palestinians, saying, "You're going to get here's your land, here's our land. We're going to have joint control over Jerusalem," which is what was offered in 47 and in 37, and I believe again in May. I can't remember if it was in the 2019 deal or not, or that was like up for negotiation in the 2019 deal. Right? But we have. Okay. 66, right? Like it is over and over and over again rejected unless the Jews, go to the sea. Like fucking, we refuse to recognize you as a nation. And it's
so
like
Oslo was Oslo was accepted by the PLO. Taba was accepted 95. By the PLO. Taba 2001 accepted by the PLO, rejected by Sharon. Arab Peace Initiative was embraced by the PLO, rejected by Sharon. The Roadmap to Peace accepted by the PLO, rejected by Sharon. Geneva, same thing. And actually, that had popular support on both sides. So, like the Israeli right have absolutely had their role to play in that as well. Their whole goal of Likud has been to reject peace. They've fought against it since they were formed in the 70s, even before then, when they were a terrorist org, right? Yeah.
I'm not making the argument that Israel is like a fucking angel here, right? Like fuck nation states in general, right? But I mean, but there isn't, I wouldn't say, a consistent pattern from all of the leadership of Israel to reject all state solutions. There is from the Palestinian.
What?
But no, there isn't. Like the early 2000s was the pattern of rejection was on Israel's. It's just because said pattern of rejection on Palestine's end. I'm just saying there have been times when Palestinian leadership has been more open to a negotiated deal than Israel's side.
There have been times where they've sat down,
like more recently,
and said, "Yeah, I mean, and sure." And then we could also say like the 2000 deal. Was that the first, or the second Camp David? I think
Camp David's second,
right?
One.
They're like. Second, thank you. We could say that they probably would have hammered out a deal if there hadn't been far right Israeli, demonstrations where Palestinians were throwing rocks and then riots and then and then violence ensued. You know what I mean? Like that could have been completely there. What I'm saying is that it's not like a deal hasn't been put forward multiple times and there have been these quibbles and quibbles over coffee here, right? That are unnecessary to the point where, accept the fucking deal and fight for more rights later. But why the fuck haven't we set up a two-state solution in this period of time? And it's not because, Israel won't let it happen.
So what are you saying
except that there are like 3 or 4 deals where that has been the case, but yeah.
So are you saying that to say that like Palestine is the worst of them and they should lose in whatever deal is now made?
Not
or like what is your position?
Hamas
I'm not a consequentialist, so like I wouldn't say that.
What
like one
is your
worse than the
position
other,
though?
right?
What is your position?
In regards to
it's
what?
the private property. Hold on, it's the private property homesteading. We know that that's going to be the answer.
Well,
basically,
wait,
if you use the
wait a
land,
sec.
if you develop the land, you have ownership.
Wait a sec. Hang on though, Fabian. Are you seriously contending that the Zionist project involved homesteading and not mass purchasing of appropriated, essentially peasant communally used land that they were then expelled from?
I would say that it's a ton of homesteading. Yeah, that's not even controversial.
That's incredibly controversial.
If you're like a retard online.
Stop.
Are you going to interrupt me, Shops, every single time I speak?
No. It seems like Lauren wants to speak up for a moment
now. But
now.
I was in the middle of saying something, and then you just.
All 3 of you guys were talking. All 3 of you guys were talking at the same time.
No, I was talking actually.
Okay, yes, so all 3 of you guys were interrupting each other at the same time. But after Lauren gives her piece, then President Sunday, you can talk. Is that okay?
But why? I haven't even had a single back and forth yet.
Okay. Okay, fine. How about this? President Sunday, you can go first, and then Lauren De Laguna can go next.
How about I go first? He can respond, and then Lauren can go.
Okay, fine. Then you can go first, then Fabian can go next, and then Lauren De Laguna can go next. Okay, go. Okay, go. Yeah.
The reason why organizations like the what was the actual name of it called? The Jewish Palestinian Colonization Association or whatever. The reason why these organizations were buying large portions of land is precisely because that's where the land was. It wasn't.
Who were they buying it from?
They were buying it from wealthy Palestinians who, in the wake of Ottoman land reforms, had appropriated large swaths of land and then sold it from under the peasants' feet.
So interestingly enough, right? Like, was there not a large movement of people to take swampland that was unarable and unused and required massive amounts of labor to then turn that land into productive farmland during the
It was both. It was there was homesteading and there was also where they bought land, but that
right.
land
But his contention is that there is no homesteading.
No, your contention is that no. Hang on, you're only mentioning homesteading to whitewash what actually took place when they moved the Palestinians off of their land.
Whoa.
Otherwise, there's no purpose.
I'm not whitewashing. Hold on, pause.
Whitewashing.
At what point am I whitewashing? Saying like that Israel? Like I have no problem saying that like certain militia groups and offshoots of militia groups have done horrible things during the Zionist movement, right? But the idea,
you're attributing that to
is the strongest. I'm saying
I'm gonna have to stop you there.
Homesteading is the strongest claim to land. Period.
Stop now. I'm gonna have to stop you right there. Lauren De Laguna, go.
I just had a question for Loner Box. I was just wondering what peace agreements Israel rejected.
Taba, 2001, Arab Peace Initiative, 2002, Geneva, 2003, roadmap to peace. I can give you the the reasonings why they failed in Israel's end if you want.
Yeah. Go for it.
So I think Taba was actually probably the closest one to going through, apart from Ehud Barak lost an election to Sharon. Sharon was not interested in peace, so he abandoned it. Same thing with Clinton getting switched over for Bush. Roadmap to peace, one of the demands of Israel was that they freeze settlement expansion to allow the land swaps to be debated. Sharon said no because too many settlers were having families. And he made a joke about how it would basically mean having to make the settlers have abortions. The Arab Peace Initiative, I think that was just rejected flat out as a non-starter by Sharon. And Geneva was supported by Israeli liberals and by Fatah. But again, Sharon said that the liberals who were behind it were acting behind Israelis' back, almost like accusing them of being traitors.
Thanks.
I'm just saying, if we're talking about obstacles to peace, you can obviously make the claim that as soon as Hamas were born in ’87, they used a lot of violence and a lot of
I think it's difficult.
counter propaganda to try and push against that from their end. They even even a lot of more pro-peace people had their lives thrabined for that. And the same thing in Israel was that you've always had the right wingers who just never stopped expanding settlements. Even when Israel did have one leader who was very pro-peace, Rabin, when he put through the Oslo Accords, there were mass protests against him led by the right wing, one of whom was Netanyahu. He led marches calling for Rabin's death and carrying fucking fake coffins and nooses behind them. And then in that environment of toxicity, Rabin got assassinated. So the far right and the right wing of both sides have hindered peace all the way throughout. There's just this myth that Israelis tried to push for peace and Palestinians.
Every political protest.
I think it's worth flagging. Just really quickly,
even when Obama got elected, there was nooses and shit everywhere from the Tea Party. Relax.
I think it's worth flagging that the second Intifada was during the Taba talks, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the idea that it's Israel that was at fault for the downfall of the Taba talks when it was in the midst of the second Intifada is a little silly, right?
Oslo was born right out of the first Intifada.
Okay, but it was the idea that you're going to blame Israel for peace talks falling apart during an Intifada is a little silly, right?
I mean, when you have Israeli liberals who are willing to pursue it, Barak was willing to pursue it.
Yes, there were people
answer,
who
man.
were
come on.
Barak was do you think Barak was in the wrong for trying to negotiate Taba then?
Of course not. I think that it's worth.
Okay, well, he was involved in it before it fell apart.
I think it's worth, even in a time where there are massive attacks and massive terrorist attacks specifically against your country, to try to figure out a way to negotiate, not with the terrorists directly, but with the PLO, who obviously are complicated, right? Not directly the same. I think it's worth making those talks, but to say that those talks are falling apart and that's on the that's at the fault of the people who were not responsible for the terrorist attacks, I think it's a little bit silly.
Well, it's also the people who were hamstringing the peace process all the way throughout the 90s as well, because that's what Sharon was doing throughout that whole time. Okay. And it's also as if you can't. I don't know why you're suggesting this, though, because apartheid. If we look at apartheid South Africa, the violence never stopped until apartheid ended. There was always violence going on. It was never paused for negotiations.
I just think that I think it's frustrating to blame Israel for the falling of the talks of Taba, right? Because there's this broader context of you don't like what Israel's doing writ large, even though in the moment you recognize that in the moment, obviously, the Intifada itself, the second Intifada in itself, is something that's clearly not on Israel.
So
it's difficult to say that individual negotiation falling apart is on Israel's hands because of a broader issue that you have with what Israel's doing writ large, rather than what they're doing in relationship to those talks. Does that make sense?
So maybe you weren't listening when I said Hamas held their share of the blame for that as well, because yes, it does make it harder to sustain peace talks when Hamas are literally fucking sending suicide bombers into Israel. Yes, I said that. I don't know why you would suggest that Sharon was without blame here. Sharon opposed peace from day one. He came in and rejected every peace proposal that came towards him.
It's difficult to put this cut and dry on the Israelis and say this
will
is
one
on
of
the,
you
like,
guys
this is
say
job,
the
this is
magical
fault of
left-wing
Israel.
word?
Wait, moderator,
context and
moderator,
or
wait,
nuance?
moderator. Lauren hasn't spoken.
I mean, you haven't spoken
mean,
on
I
this
have
yet
a
either.
question.
So to be fair,
I was just trying to read through some of the examples and why it was falling apart. It looked like, or
I have something to say about what Quibbles was saying.
go ahead.
If that is the logic we're going by, then any force can occupy another country and put them in concentration camps, and then eventually they'll start doing atrocities. And then once they
That's not
start
what I
doing
said.
that, then you can justify whatever treatment of them you want.
Yeah, that's not what I said.
So-
What I'm saying is that
but that is the extension.
blame Israel. Okay,
No, it's
if you have a
not.
Yes, it
if
is.
you have a
Such a straw
problem,
man.
okay, so here's
I think it is.
here's the issue.
I don't know. Wait, before you
you
even
have a-
say it, I don't know. You're about to start saying I was blaming Israel again. I'm saying that like Hamas held their fucking share of the blame as well. Even people in the PLO
Right.
held
No,
their share of the blame for
I'm not.
launching their attacks.
Lunenburg, to
And I'm
clarify,
just saying, it's just a
But the
counter
way
to
that you
people saying
clarified
that
it,
the Palestinians have
qualms
rejected
with the way
every
that you
peace proposal
clarified
that
it.
came their way. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
I have no qualms with the way that you clarified it. I do have qualms with the idea that like if you don't agree with the way that Israel is handling itself writ large, that doesn't mean that you can blame Israel for every individual case of negotiations falling apart and any individual case of Israel in good faith trying to change the circumstances. Right? In the case of Taba, the reason that fell apart is not on Israel. It is primarily the case of that individual negotiation falling apart on the Second Intifada, which is to say, not on Israel. Right?
No, I think it was on Sharon for abandoning the talks.
I mean, we can.
But why did
I mean,
he?
This
No,
seems like
why were the
way
talks
too into the
made-
weeds. This is
either.
way too into the weeds.
It's
about
not
an
too
agreement,
into
right?
the weeds.
Palestinians
No,
were
The
it
Second
doing
absolutely
Intifada is
is.
not.
It's
not.
you're quibbling
like,
over
this is a
bullshit. All
massive-
right, true to your
This
name.
is a massive
Like the
terrorist,
idea. No, it's not. It's listen,
Okay,
listen,
go for
listen, listen, because you both are going back and forth in circles. Look, I said that there's a pattern of rejectionism from the Palestinians. And as a counter to this, he gave a period of time where the pattern was on the other end, where it was Israel that was saying no, no, no. And you're saying, hey, but there's context to this in the fact the Second Intifada, right? That there's, some riots break out, and then all of a sudden you have attacks on both end, predominantly Palestinians, having another one of their holy little fucking crusades of fucking blowing up discotheques, right? And I get what you're saying. This like that's not on Israel, but the problem is that where you're moving in and out between individual people, right? That it absolutely is technically their fault. The buck stops here, and the context of like politics and people and terror and like what is socially acceptable for like your governance that's supposed to represent you during a time of, let's say, a Second Intifada. Both are valid, but we should move on from it because I think it's just.
No, you're right. My contention is just that I think that it's difficult to build a pattern off of cases that are not as clear cut as I think Letterboxd was attempting to perhaps make them seem. Yeah.
I was just pushing back against the idea that it's always been rejection from Palestinians, but again, okay, it's fine.
Yeah, I
think I clarified.
I get where you're coming from, but simultaneously, it seems like the only of the two groups between Israel and Palestine, it appears as though Israel is really the only one that's in good faith coming to the table with a two-party solution to allow for peace between both states.
Would you say that's true of the last 20 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the last 20 years, they left Gaza.
Not to pursue peace.
Yeah, and then
you
they
think they
built
left Gaza to pursue peace?
Wait, STL looks like he's about to say something. STL, go.
And well, I was just saying, and then they built another 20 settlements in the West Bank. Like,
how many settlements? Yeah, how many settlers left Gaza? 9,000. The settler population in the West Bank went up by 13,000. You think that was like good faith? You think it was an effort for peace? Why did they? That was unilateral. They didn't negotiate with anyone.
Okay. When we're talking about peace, do you think that we have to have that conversation? Like, okay, there's sort of two components of that. One component of that is a question of whether or not leaving unilaterally from Gaza is or is not something that is in support of moving towards peace. There's a second question, which I think is a separate question, of whether or not the increasing settlements within the West Bank are or are not moving towards peace. But would you grant that in relationship to Gaza, that is a movement towards
They're
peace?
attacking the
No.
people
No,
who
I would
live
not.
there, dude.
I would no wait. Sorry, Sunday. I would not call that. Why did no one say that? Sharon's speeches about leaving Gaza had nothing to do with peace. It was to do with demographics. They didn't want to govern a place that was like 95+% Palestinian.
Okay, so they don't want to
And
govern
where there was
it.
terror violence. It had
So they
nothing to
don't
do
want
with
to
trying to
govern
achieve.
it, so- which is
Why
to
would
say,
you try?
wait, hold
Why
on.
would it be?
They don't
Why
wanna
would it be
hold
an
on,
aid of
hold
trying
on.
to? No, wait,
They
wait.
don't want
Why
to
would
govern
it?
Gaza. They don't want to govern Gaza, which is to say, who do they want to govern Gaza?
As in, they don't want. They would expect the PA to govern Gaza, but again, they don't want to
Okay.
like give Gaza.
Which
They don't
is
want
to
to
say
make it
that
a
they're
state,
giving,
though.
which is to say that they are giving, right, unilaterally more control to the PA, which is to say that they're giving more control unilaterally to more legitimacy, more of an ability to have an independent country, more of an ability to have genuine independence to the Palestinians.
look,
Yes.
Okay,
Look,
I can tell you're just
I'm
like, I can
genuinely-
tell you're just I can tell you're just riffing it now because everyone since for the last 30 years has agreed that expansion of settlements in the West Bank is the biggest obstacle to peace.
Fine.
If they were
Okay,
if they
we
were
can
coming
we can
out
have
of
that
Gaza to
conversation.
try and lead to peace, why would they
We can
build more settlements than they lost in
We can
Gaza in
have
the
the
same year?
conversation. We can have the conversation in relationship
just
to the West
riffing.
Bank,
Like,
but I
okay.
want to have the conversation first in just in relationship to Gaza, right? In relationship to Gaza, was that a
No,
motion?
you're making it up
towards
as you
peace?
go. He called it.
Is
But I
in
wanna have
Gaza
this
that a
conversation.
statement toward a
Do you
movement
think
towards
do you
peace?
think
Of
they were
course it is.
expecting Gaza to form a breakaway state separate from the West Bank?
I think that they were trying.
That's the
to
only way
give
your argument makes
more
work. Makes
control.
sense.
I think they were trying to give more control to the independence of Gaza. Yes, of course.
So you can actually read their statements for why they did it. They did it because Gaza was demographically never going to shift in favor of Israel, not even close. And they were worried that Palestinian struggle was going to change from wanting self-determination into wanting one person, one vote from the river to the sea. That's why they disengaged from Gaza. It's because that basically made the one person, one vote argument impossible to hold on to.
Look, Quibbles, they pulled out of
Yeah.
Gaza, and again, I'm ostensibly leaning towards the pro-Israel side here, hilariously enough. But the next thing they did is funded fucking Hamas. like the next thing they did is try and fucking create strife in the Palestinian Authority and the PLO by funding fucking Islamists, right? After they pulled out of the area.
I'm not about to defend Likud or Bibi.
Right.
Of
So
course
this,
not.
okay, yeah, but you're saying that this is a move towards peace to move out. Like
I'm saying
only in like some weird like technical scenario is it, because their motivations aren't that way and the consequences aren't that way. So like that's a silly conversation to have when you keep saying I want to have that conversation.
Instead of telling you what I think should happen, can I just tell you what I think is gonna happen?
Yeah.
Isn't that like the third topic?
Again.
Fuck it, whatever.
Yeah. So what I think is going to
Is
happen.
Israel going to annex Gaza?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So
Thanks. Let's move on.
You're welcome. So Israel is going to do a ground invasion of Gaza. They're probably, if international pressure is strong enough, they're not going to be able to demographically expel every single Gazan Palestinian. They're going to militarily occupy for the next 30 years. They're going to force their sympathetic government onto it. And then the only thing that's going to be possible is some kind of negotiated settlement in the West Bank. That's it. You done throwing a pity party, President Sunday?
No, I'm just absorbing.
Well, it's over.
No, damn
Why is everyone so quiet on this panel?
I think a lot of us want to have different
Trying to make space
conversations
for people.
than each other.
Well, I think it's because we shifted from the moral conversation. I think about like,
Right.
Did this side, were they the bad negotiator? Does that mean they deserve a little ethnic cleansing to like what's going to happen? Which is
when
a
did
non-moral
anyone say that they
conversation.
deserve ethnic cleansing? What are you
That's not
talking
he's
about?
he's going to an
No one
extreme.
has
He's
said
going
that.
to an extreme, but the general gist is
No,
when
he's
we're
not going to
arguing.
extreme.
No, let
He's
me just say
lying.
something and then tell me when I'm wrong. Like so, I think that the feeling I'm getting is when we're arguing about who is more reasonable, who is like more bringing more to the table, more good faith to the peace negotiations. It's like we're saying who deserves who deserves to be listened to more, who is more worthy of our support. But like I think in the end of the day, like we can't look back, we can only look to the future, and that's why like I'm more interested in saying what can they do, what should we focus on, what should we support,
Quibbles.
So yeah, the answer to that is
Quibbles.
quite simple. What's up?
So If Israel didn't have pressure from the international community, do you think that they would expel every single Gazan into Egypt?
No. I think if realistically, this is going to sound awful, but realistically, if they wanted to do that, they could get away with it on the international stage. Now, would it be difficult for them for the next 4 years? Absolutely. But would they be able to move forward? Yes. The truth
Why
is that
4
America
years?
needs them. 4 to 10, whatever it is. I'm making up 4. The reality is that at the end of the day, I don't think that the international community actually cares about the Palestinians at all. I think that the truth is that Saudi Arabia cares a little bit, that Iran cares a little bit, but I don't think that they care enough that they're going to stop ultimately working towards a negotiation and relationship with Israel.
I think it's going to be really hard for the United States and Israel to claim some kind of moral legitimacy if they effectively participate in an ethnocide.
That's different than a question of whether or not Israel could get away with it. It would be difficult for once Israel got away with it. I think it would take, like, in order for their hands to be seen as clean, it would take a long time. But that's different than whether or not they would be able to get away with it.
I'm asking if they could be free from consequence. And so this is why I disagree with you, because I think if Israel could be free from consequence, they would literally just take all of it. They would take the West Bank up to the fucking river. They would take Gaza. They would expel all the Arab Muslims, except for the ones who are willing to be the 20% of people who are willing to go along to get along. They would get rid of fucking everybody. So now it's just a question
I think that's a difficult,
of the slow rolling expansion.
I think that's a difficult claim to make. I think it is a very easy claim to make in relationship to Hamas, that Hamas absolutely would do that against the Jews, not just in Israel, but worldwide.
Why would Israel want to keep Gaza
hold on,
civilians?
before we move forward, do you grant that it's not a difficult question at all in relationship to Hamas?
Yeah, sure. Fuck Hamas.
Quite easy for both of them, though, right?
It's not at all a difficult question in relationship to Hamas. It is something that has actually happened across the rest of the Middle East. It is something that has actually happened across much of Europe. It is something that has actually happened across most of North Africa, right? To the Jews. Ethnic cleansing of the Jews.
Yeah, but okay, but
we're just asking
you're
why.
comparing.
So when you're asking this, hold on. When you're asking, hold on. If I can finish.
Wait, let Sunny speak. Wait, let Sunny speak.
If you're asking the question, if you're asking the question of what Jews would do if they had full control, I think that that's something that is a reasonable question, and the international stage is a component of it. But the truth is that the Palestinian and the Muslim population within that area has increased since Israel became a country, whereas the Jewish population everywhere else in the Middle East has decreased considerably.
Quibbles, finish quickly.
Okay.
Sunny, speak.
I did.
No, move on.
Go for it,
It's
Sunday.
okay. It's fine.
Okay.
I'll ask you
Sunday,
that.
are you getting fucking brain damage or some shit? What's your fucking problem? You signed up for a fucking
demoralized.
Quibbles, if you're saying that
this is my real fucking beef. Sunday, every single time you show up to have a conversation with another person with an IQ over 80, you act like you're tired and bored and have someplace else to be, but then you show up for the next interaction. So why don't you actually engage with the conversations that are put in front of you?
Were you over 80?
Oh my god.
What?
Meta.
Okay.
No, he's so much smarter than everybody else. I want to hear what the fuck he has to say. Come on, buddy.
What?
Enlighten us.
He
Everybody else is stupid. Everybody else is boring. Please enlighten us. I'm down here to receive the wisdom of President Sunday. Everybody else is a fucking idiot. We're boring you. We're wasting your time. I am here to learn. President Sunday, I'm sitting my white ass down and I am listening.
Right?
Please tell me.
You're not that mad that you couldn't successfully deplatform me because food shops is proving that
no, don't distract. I want to hear.
No.
Dude, I want to hear the 3,000 IQ take.
I want to save
him, Fabian. Let's go back to the topic. All right, SDL wants to talk.
President Sunday, what's your view?
I mistook you for Ted Kaczynski for a second, so my critique doesn't actually apply.
So Quibbles, what was the point of going down the argument of who would do the full ethnic cleansing of the other side?
Oh, I think that the point is that the status quo is awful, and there are lots of ways. I was saying at the beginning of this, there are a lot of ways that I can think of. We're at a 10 to get to a 15, and there are very few ways that I can. There's no way I can think of to get
your
to
scale
a 10
makes
to a
no
5.
sense.
Okay, we're at It's really
Make it a
shitty,
1 to 10
okay?
scale if you're going to use
We
a
get the
fucking
point.
scale.
Just please move on.
The point is, it's really shitty. We can get it to be even more shitty. It's very
15,
difficult to make it
9.5?
de-shitted,
7 to
but we
10.
can make it from really shitty to be like very shitty, right? And so the point is
Solid
that
5 out of
right
7.
now, the really shitty situation that we're in is less shitty than what Jews have gone through anywhere else in the rest of the Middle East. That's my point,
Yeah.
right?
Okay,
And
wait.
so if we're talking about, if
and-
that's the
Wait,
context,
what?
Quibbles, for the
And so
love of God, condense your paragraphs to 10 words.
okay, I will.
Okay,
I will
okay,
Saying
please.
a lot of nothing
Give me
is
a
what we're
moment to
saying.
cleanse. and condense.
Quibbles.
I'm cleansing to condense.
Do you
Okay.
see how I said 10 quibbles when I could have just said 1 quibble?
I'm sorry. Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay. All right. How about this? Let's move
I
on to
think-
the second question. Okay? How about
But
that?
I haven't finished. I was going to answer that.
Yeah, let him go if you don't
The
mind.
answer is that I think that the status quo is horrible, but the idea of Hamas being in control is obviously on its face considerably worse.
Okay, but
Yes.
well, that is for sure. But because they would be obviously from how they're engaging now, they'd be like way more tyrannical. But I think that the reason that it is like you said, like if you imagine like if Israel could do whatever they want, like Connor said, I agree that they would probably just take over the whole thing, and obviously Hamas would do that too. It's more obvious, like you said, that Hamas would just do whatever they want. But I think it's by design that Israel is doing everything smart. They're doing everything diplomatically.
The point is that
They're not
Israel-
going to give the impression because they're smarter.
It's a nation state plans their
The point is that
actions.
Israel
Cool.
can.
Thanks for that
The point is
input.
that
They've been
the point is that
pretty
Israel-
explicitly. Go ahead.
Israel can do whatever it wants right now. It
Hey,
isn't
Israel-
doing whatever it wants, right?
No.
And we're assuming that it
Because of
wants to do these
international
other
pressure.
things. But because it's actually able to be pressured by an international force, whereas something like the Taliban, as we've seen, or something like Hamas cannot.
Okay, that's
Well,
that's
let's say
definitely-
let's say if over 1 million Palestinians fled the Gaza
Someone-
Strip, and let's say they managed to escape to Egypt, and Israel's occupying Gaza with significantly less people there now. Do you think they would allow those refugees to return to Gaza? I think we all know they wouldn't, right?
No,
I think
is the answer.
I think that it depends. I think the answer is it depends on the
Okay, the
Depends.
time
second
scale.
question.
It was
So
a
there's
matter-
another we know the very
it was-
obvious answer
Well,
to
can I
that
answer the
question. The second
The
one
answer
is
depends on the time
okay.
scale. If they were there for 10 years, the answer is no. If they were there for 2 months, the answer is probably. They would be
like
out
it was the
quickly.
case in the previous wars where Palestinians were kicked out.
I don't think that we're in the
Okay,
same
we'll go on to the
situation
next
today
one.
as
So
international-
when it comes to the
I don't think.
when it
Wait,
comes
hold up,
to
let me answer.
Quibbles,
I don't think we're in the same situation.
Quibbles,
We're not in the same.
okay.
I'm condensing.
Condense your
We're
milk
not
for
in the
your
same
coffee.
situation today as we were in 67 or 48.
Sure,
That's
but
the
you
answer.
just
less than
pointed to those.
100% this
You
time,
just
yeah,
pointed
but-
to those examples to prove how bad it is. Like you,
In
you just used
relationship
those-
to Israel.
I'll
I don't
just
think
ask
that
the next-
Israel's in the same
I'll just
situation.
ask-
I
I'll just ask the next
absolutely
part.
think that
Quibbles,
Afghanistan
quibbles,
is in the same
Quibbles,
situation.
do everyone a favor and like go to the bathroom, grab some beard trimmers, clean up, and come back after you're a little calmer. All right.
I thought his beard
So-
looked
You can
all
look
right.
how he
to-
looked. It's fine. It's all.
I was
good.
gonna do the
Yeah, my
second
beard's
half of
Quibble
fine.
my
is
question.
telling you to chill the fuck out.
I'm chill.
I was going to
Okay.
do. I was going to say now that we knew that with Gaza, if with the West Bank, we know they don't have any intention to allow this to become a state. That's why they keep expanding settlements. So why do you think that if they could, they would just get all the Palestinians out of Gaza and annex it? No. What else is their plan?
The answer is yes.
Yeah. Okay.
No, the answer is not entirely yes, because I think that they've also made an effort to try to give Gaza back to Egypt, which repeatedly Egypt has said no to. Right?
Go,
So
West
that seems
President
to be a
President
solution
Sunday,
that
go.
they're-
I want to hear what you have to say. Go.
The
right
answer is
now.
not clearly
He's got a
yes,
thought right
because
now.
Wait,
Okay,
Quibbles,
oh.
Quibbles.
I just
President
got paid. I just got paid $150 to leave.
I just
Oh,
do it.
No, he didn't. He got paid $20.
No, I got paid
And
150
it says
in total. I got a
excise our
theory meter.
souls of this panel. That's all it says. And then
Oh,
Yeah, but that's after
Yeah.
a
you got
49 one. and
$49 doesn't say
I've got a
anything.
really cool system on my stream. I've got it called a theory meter. So if I hit $100 American, then I got to go to theory. Is what it is.
He's
I
a
was
true
hoping-
leftist.
I was hoping I could square the circle and I could stay here, but alas.
I think you're just being a little puss.
oh.
Gee, I wonder
Low
who just
blow.
joined recently.
I actually paid myself. I'm running from Stardust in particular.
Okay.
Stardust, what are your
Okay.
thoughts?
My
Say
thoughts.
Livy.
I actually came in the middle of
Fuck up.
this
No, hold the
conversation.
fuck on Stardust. Fuck that. Fucking Sunday
What?
is a fucking pussy. and a
Oh my
goddamn
God,
fucking
Meta!
coward.
Please.
No. SDL, fuck this. I've seen half a dozen Sunday dramas, and every single one of them is him acting fucking better than every single person that he's fucking talking to, yawning, whining, saying, "Oh, you called me. What do you want to talk about?" And within fucking 8 minutes, he leaves. I get that it's a fucking meme at this point, but it's actually like, why the fuck is this guy invited to fucking anything if he doesn't contribute shit?
So counterpoint,
Sunday,
I don't know.
you talk
Yeah.
shit on Twitter and you're a huge pussy in person. Go fuck
I
yourself,
agree with
you
you.
fucking
Counterpoints,
coward.
counterpoints, I 100% agree with you.
Hey,
pussy.
But wait,
Hey.
let me just get in here real
No,
quick. Counterpoints.
Pussy.
No,
Wait, yes, I
real
agree
quick,
with you.
real quick.
Let me get in. Let me get
Why-
in here real quick.
Why did he
I
try to
just
get me
got-
canceled?
I just
Sorry,
hold on.
he
Let
wasn't
me
gonna
just-
take
Chill. Okay. Stardust.
Counterpoints. I agree with you because I don't know if you saw my video most recently that I put up, but he was doing the whole fake yawning bullshit, acting like he's disinterested, all of that. He
It's just
fucking
becoming a drama
demanded. He fucking demanded me to come talk to him Monday night. I said I'm off on Mondays, and I'm not going to waste my time off for you. So we'll talk on Wednesday. We set it up in advance. We show up on Wednesday, and then he leaves as soon as he gets the excuse to. It's fucking ridiculous. That's all
hold
I
up.
say about
So-
it. But
so
my last
SDL.
thing is everybody should block him on Twitter and make him irrelevant again. That's my point. That's it.
I'm 100% good with this. And SDL, I'll let it go back to fucking serious topics. I seriously fucking will. But at the same time, the last drama I saw before Stardust was fucking Wick, where he had all this fucking shit to say about how Wick was a piece of shit and he's simping for XYZ, ABC. He's a fucking asshole, blah, blah, blah. He's defending all these fucking trans people, or he's defending Brianna Wu because he's a fucking simp and an asshole and all this kind of bullshit. Fucking, they set up a call. I see this shit on fucking Twitter. They go live, and Sunday goes, "What do you want to talk about?" Fuck you, you fucking pussy. Get the fuck out of here. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna go block his ass right now. Let's go talk about real
I
shit.
hate
I just think it's funny that he tried to cancel Smith and I on this panel and tried to get rid of us because we're not serious people, and I quote shouldn't be allowed to exist as a public entity. End quote.
So fucking
Okay.
ridiculous.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And
So
then dips out like a bitch.
Okay, so
Fuck
Stardust
him.
join.
That's the base
Stardust just
businessman,
okay.
okay?
Okay, so Stardust just
Epic
joined.
entrepreneur.
Stardust. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us your general position on Israel and Palestine?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so hi, I'm Stardust. I'm a semi-political streamer. I do politics, I do debates. I also cover drama and do weird bits that I think are super funny, like screaming and crying in a banana suit. I think that shit is hilarious. There's nothing funnier to me than like a grown woman who should be doing better things with her time, sitting in front of a camera screaming and crying in a banana suit. But regardless,
Peak female
yes,
comedy. Hell yeah.
I like to, yeah, well, you would know what comedy is, wouldn't you? So what I was basically going to say is that yes, I identify as a pro-Palestine person, though I am super sympathetic towards the Israelis, and I'm super sympathetic towards the Palestinians, and I think the recent attacks by Hamas were like unforgivable and unjustifiable, and I've been appalled and sickened by all of what I've seen on Twitter as well as elsewhere in the world immediately following that. But I don't know what the solution is. I don't think somebody proposed going back to like 1967 borders, which is super fucking weird to me. How can you go back to 1967 borders? It's 50 fucking years. Like, no, we're not gonna. I'm sorry. There are people who live in Israel now who know no other life. That's like telling me I was born and raised in America. That's like telling me to go to India because like I'm colonizing your fucking land, right? I'm not going to do it. I have nothing in common with an Indian person in India. I have way more in common with people in America. So I don't think it is a reasonable solution to kick out either one of these people, but I don't know what the solution is. I would hope that one day they can maybe make like a similar like nation of states similar to like United States or like United Kingdom, but you know, I don't know what's going to happen. So
okay,
yeah.
okay, awesome. Thank
like
you.
perhaps some sort of one-state
got a quick
solution.
question.
Perhaps a secular
before
state, but with Jewish values, you know. But
before you guys start devolving into single-celled organisms, okay? Before you guys start doing that,
At least 3 cells.
I just want to at least 3 cells. That's a bit generous, but anyway, the point is that
2-cell solution.
Two-cell solution. Okay, so I will begin pulling in people now. I'll begin filtering people through my equation of eugenics, and I will begin pulling in people. You will try to convince me in DMs that you are worth having on. You will not be able to introduce yourself. I will not care who you are. You will not have time to elaborate on your position. You will just begin cooking, okay? And yeah, you will not be given the privilege of a first waiver. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, what's up? Yeah, what question? Make it quick. Yeah.
It's going to be really quick. Are you ready? Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anyone here who's opposed to the idea of Saudi Arabia and Israel making peace?
Stop! Why? Stop! I'm doing my moderator thing right now. Why the fuck are you asking this kind of question right now?
What?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
That wasn't a question for the randos. That was a question for the real people.
No, you can ask that afterwards. You can cook that afterwards. Why? I'm trying to do logistical stuff right now.
I'm sorry.
Oh my god, no, I'm muting you. Okay. So anyway, all right, cool. Thank you. And now I'll move on to the second question. Okay. So based on recent events, how do you view them? All right. So I'm again regarding Israel and Palestine. Okay. Based on recent events, how do you view them? Which side do you support? Which actions do you condemn, if you condemn them at all? How do you view the way social media has handled it? How do you view the way everybody has given it? Is there any anti-Semitism problem going on right now that has bubbled to the surface? Or is that very much overblown? Should Palestinian issues be talked about much more despite the insensitivity of bringing it up after the timing of the recent events? Discuss. Okay, I'll now unmute you, Quibbles.
10 questions in one.
So for the 10 questions, there seems, obviously I condemn certain actions by Israel. I have said, on other panels, SCL was there and Connor was there as well multiple times. I think we should be using political pressure to try and force Israel into, creating blue zones. And then, kind of strong arming our ability to sit on the UN Security Council to kind of be favorable towards Israel and at the same time push Israel to be as ethical in the way that they're acting in Gaza as possible. But I do have an interesting question, because I think all of these questions really leads to one question, which is there is this, I keep hearing, I hear it even from Connor, I hear it from everybody. Oh, this is ethnic cleansing. This is like the worst thing ever. Like, we're coming in, we're killing all of these people. And so my question is short of just letting Hamas bomb you, what the fuck are the Israelis supposed to do when they invent an entire new form of munitions to knock the roof so that they can do as little damage to families as possible? When they telephone people before saying, hey, we're going to bomb this building, Hamas is in this fucking building, when they try and push out, the only thing, right, that I have called for and that I can see that is something Israel needs to be doing is setting up blue zones, as opposed to just kind of funneling via the Biden administration refugee status in the Sinai by Egypt, right? Like, I think this should be Israel's responsibility. If they're going to bomb places, they should have places for the fucking civilians to go. But like, this idea that it's like, oh, it's just ethnic cleansing because we're killing people. Okay, well then do we just let fucking Hamas use human shields and just never go after them? Like, what the fuck is your solution?
No, I'm pretty sure like ethnic cleansing also involves removing populations as well. So it's not just like Holocaust style genocide. It's also displacing people so they're no longer around you because you don't fucking like them. So what I would say is what you said. I'm answering. I'm answering. Yeah, I'm going to answer your question. So when it comes to Gaza, like I think that like after this terrorist attack, military occupation. It's going to happen. And by the way, airstrikes can be indiscriminate. So for instance, if you're hitting hospitals, if you're hitting schools, if you're hitting colleges or whatever, ground forces will have like higher casualties, but you will also be able to have a higher percentage discrimination between civilian and combatant. So I would basically say that the moral thing to do, even though it's going to cause more casualties, is to go in on the ground, fight Hamas toe to toe, eradicate them as a political and militant entity, establish some kind of diplomatic relationship with whatever civilian government you can in Gaza, govern it, turn it into a infrastructure project, and turn it into a decent place to live for Palestinians, your
So you're saying Area B?
enemies.
This is all after.
You're saying essentially.
Do you think that's actually
you're saying
possible?
You're advocating
Like
for
that-
Area B.
Do you think it's actually
I don't-
possible
hold on.
to neutralize Hamas, or would that?
Are you
suck
advocating
in
for?
I
forces
do.
from
Are
Jordan
you-
and stuff?
Based off of geography, I think it's possible to eliminate Hamas as a political entity in the Gaza Strip. Yeah.
And are you
Not the
advocating once
organization.
that's done for Area B or for Area C? So like for Palestinian Authority to, or in this case for Hamas potentially to have like civil control but still have military control
No.
under Israeli control, or are you saying full control under Israeli?
No, I'm saying that like Hamas should be banned as a political party. The way that Egypt banned the
Okay.
Muslim Brotherhood, it should be the Palestinian Authority or some kind of new provincial government or whatever, and they should work. It should be somebody who works
no
in concert
Palestinian
with the Israeli government.
There's no Palestinian state. So as
Listen,
it stands,
listen.
currently-
I'm tired.
Well,
I'm
he's saying
tired of this
Hamas.
fucking. Hold on,
Or
hold
sorry,
on.
he's
I'm
saying Fatah.
tired of this. I'm tired of this fucking talking point. Okay, a fucking state or a government exists wherever the
You
fuck
don't know that-
people
you don't-
convene in
you don't
order to
know-
govern
you don't-
themselves.
you
No.
don't know what the fuck you're talking
I've heard
about.
the. Okay.
You're
I'm sorry. Are you
being
going to
retarded.
Are you autistically going to explain the difference between a government and a state? I'll listen for the 50th
No,
time.
because that's not what I'm talking about. You're just interrupting me.
Uh-huh.
What I'm saying is
Sure,
there's
I'll
no
listen.
Palestinian state. So the only people that have any shut the fuck up. I'm almost done. The only people that have any legitimate authority here is the Palestinian. Will you shut the fuck up?
I'm
Mute
listening.
yourself
I'm
if you
saying,
can't stop.
I heard you.
I'm like, no,
Gonna
quit being
turn
such
into
a
a
Oh my God, we're back to
finesse
meta.
situation.
homo. All right, stop.
We are back
All
to
right,
Anyway,
one at a time.
This
One
is
at a
this
time.
is President Sunday behavior.
There's no
Connor.
there's
I'm
no
furious with you.
Palestinian
I'm just kidding.
state, right? So while Hamas is ostensibly elected in Gaza, the only people that actually have a right to govern this area until such a time that a two-state solution is set up is the Palestinian Authority. So if you remove Hamas, like
No,
the
careful.
international
That's
community
not-
is
that's
all
not fair
agreed
either.
that the Palestinian Authority
Hamas was
is
elected-
to be in charge.
No, that's not fair either.
Yeah,
None of these
Hamas was
people were
elected
elected
in
since the
2006.
early
Yeah,
2000s.
so they were elected in
2008.
2006, and they have not
Or-
had a single election since then.
They had an
That is
election in
almost 20
2008, I
years.
thought.
No,
I thought the
2006.
election was
It is
2006.
almost
2006?
It's 2006, and
Yeah.
it's almost 20 years since they have had an election. So I would say, I would venture to say that if you've not had an election in almost 20 years, and majority
you're
of
agreeing
the
with me.
people that you're serving, let me finish. The majority of the people that you're serving also support the center left party in that region, then yeah, you're probably need to go. So.
I'm also
Yeah,
not
you're
convinced
agreeing.
that that's true, Stardust. I think that if there was an election, I think that Hamas might win it in Gaza. In
You're just
West
wrong.
Bank, you're
That's not-
probably right.
They've been down in polling for a while. Like
Yeah, they've been-
Barghouti is
yeah.
more popular than the leader of Hamas. Yeah, especially after what's happened now. I mean, maybe that'll change.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
this
I'm
is
saying,
become a more
I'm
support
saying
for Hamas.
after now. I'm not convinced that after now
No,
that
before-
Hamas won't
even
at this
before,
point be more powerful.
Yeah,
Say it
because
again?
because of
They
shutting
were-
off the
they were-
water and electricity, that's gonna that kind of thing that stirs the pot. It's gonna make matters worse.
Yeah,
That's
when
why
people
we're going
start wars,
towards
George
fucking war.
W. Bush went up in polling
Excuse
too when he
me,
started a
I
war.
was
That's how starting a
saying
war works.
Even before
but doing
they
a-
were losing popularity. Yeah. Okay. That's all. Go
Yeah.
continue, Fabian. Whatever the fuck you and Connor were talking about.
Doing a war extremely poorly enormously reduces your popularity. That's why Netanyahu has like 80% opposition right now. If the same thing happens for Hamas, you'd expect the same effect there. Like if people blame them for the backlash, they're fucked.
I hope
No,
you're
no,
right.
no. That's
I hope
it's
you're
the
right.
opposite. It
I
goes.
will
It
also
goes
I
the
will also
opposite
say that
because
that,
when you
okay.
go. When you have like people killing you and killing your people, that whoever's in charge of your military is going to be seen as like the savior, sort of like if you go hard, they go hard, you go harder. I'm so great. Like say they're doing atrocities, now I'm going to do atrocities. Everybody's going to fucking vote for me because I want to hurt
But
them.
the point is that Bibi is going down in popularity because people are blaming him within Israel, and that's true. And so the
Yeah,
question
we'll
is whether
see.
or not
He
Hamas
already
is
was
also
going
going to
down
get
in
blamed, and they deserve to be
popularity as
blamed, but I'm not sure if
well.
they were going to. I'm
Well,
sorry.
he was
Israel
already-
was like,
It
Well,
seems to be
he was
the
also-
case
yeah.
that Hamas's call for people to stay in the north has been rejected. It seems that most people have ignored them and tried to go south. So that's one
That's true.
indication that their big like holy sacrifice bullshit isn't really working. Second
Yeah,
of all,
oh my God, Day of
for
Jihad,
even when
massive-
people talk
massive
about how
fucking failure,
popular
by the way.
Hamas are, like the most popular leader in Palestine amongst Palestinians for like several years now consistently is Barghouti. He's a secularist. It's not Hamas. So yeah, it's
Yeah, and also if I can add on to Loner Box's point here is, one, Day of Jihad, massive fucking failure, completely fell on its face. Nobody fucking listened to that, right? Two, I believe there was polling that was done within even the Muslim world that was that showed that Hamas is incredibly unpopular within the Muslim world. And then three, there was another thing that I was reading that about like a third of Palestinians feel that Hamas has been one of the worst recent developments for them, I guess.
That's
if I'm-
awesome.
if I
That's really
remember
heartening to
correctly.
hear.
Yeah.
But
Because I was getting the impression from fucking social media that everybody's in fucking support of Hamas, and that like
I
it's
can't
good,
tell
like
if you're being
No, it's just
sarcastic.
white
We-
leftists in America.
Yeah, I was about to
Like,
say.
it's also
Twitter is
not.
not a
It's
thing that
also
can be
not
trusted.
white leftists in America. 99% of like the progressive people in the United States are anti-Hamas. It's
Just
I
Frogan.
was getting the
Yeah,
impression that
until
in
it takes you like
Dude,
20
don't bring up
minutes
Rogan, I'm
to
about
come
get
around
so
to like
fucking racist. I
maybe
will
it
get
was a
so
bad
racist so
strategic
quickly.
idea, and you still can't fucking just say
I mean,
unequivocally
even fucking
that
Frogan condemned violence against
that
civilians, right? Like,
DSA Connecticut's tweet
I mean,
was
under
fucking
pressure.
horrible.
yeah,
Right?
Frogan
Like,
did it under
yeah,
pressure.
listening to-
you're
Second
still
Assad,
a pussy about that
Hakeem,
and dance
Hassan.
around
I
it,
will
right? Like,
start being
yeah,
so
it's just
bigoted
this
to bring
tiny
them
little
up, like,
group, and then
please,
it's a whole
let's,
bunch
like,
of
stay
people
away from
running
her.
cover for them. People like you, STL, who run cover for those people, instead of
Look,
just
all
going,
I'm saying is
"Fuck
I don't
Back
see
up
anything
STL
like.
as well.
Go
The
ahead.
Democrat Party is not like this opinion is not represented by anywhere, like at least in the party. You know, at least like Republicans, they've got a lot of extremists, right? But the squad, they've all fallen in line and been like pretty condemning of Hamas. So yeah,
I know I've been from like conservative Jews like Ben Shapiro, like his thing on this, like I've been getting the impression that like everybody in the region wants to kill the Jews, and that like so I was getting the impression, holy shit, this is gonna stir like all of Middle East to rise up against Israel. That's the feeling I was getting.
Why are you
from
listening to
that kind of
fucking
shit.
Ben Shapiro?
This topic is
First
really-
mistake.
Let the
He's
woman
interested
go.
too.
The second question was about social media, and I'm super glad that you brought up Ben Shapiro's social media because it
It
seems
scared
like
me.
it seems like every unverifiable thing that has been placed out there that bolsters the Israeli side has been repeated by Ben Shapiro, which I find astounding because I really did think that he was somewhat like he's not just gonna spew propaganda like so openly, and it's just wild to me because I can't like now his Twitter along with so many others has been just full of bullshit, and it's extremely unfortunate because I'm a Jewish conservative, and so when it comes to how social media has made me feel about this entire conflict, it's made me feel like it makes me feel like I don't know what's happening in Israel, and I've never known what's happening in Israel. And
I think there are two things here. Number one, anytime there is a war that is burgeoning or about to begin, you are going to see different factions begin to just spew out propaganda. This has just been true so long as we've had a media. And it's a massive media campaign since World War I. Every conflict, everything is going to have people that moneyed interests, et cetera, et cetera. And over time, that has gotten really easy to tell what it is as we've become more connected in social media, right? You know, when they were talking about, the justification for going into Iraq, because they were taking babies and aborting them and beating them against walls, and it was all lies made up by
right.
made up by the same players, right? And I'm not saying they like in quotes or anything. I just mean
yeah. I was about to say which players, Scott. Be specific.
Dude,
Yeah,
I
we
have
have
been
real
at
trouble
war
talk.
with so many libertarians as the only one fucking barely supporting Israel. Please don't. But the second thing I think, specifically when it talks to Twitter, is that Twitter has gone through a very recent change, which is that it used to have a lot of state-sponsored censorship, like all of the the social media programs, and that has gone away and been replaced with community notes, but also a financial incentive that didn't used to exist on an algorithm that's based off of rage bait engagement. So you have a lot of large conservative and media outlets and people that all they're trying to do is quickly get a lot of engagement and views so that they can make money on a place like Twitter that's not actually, the algorithm's not really based
there's also
off
That's
of
a really
that. So
good point.
it's
For-profit
pushing a lot of
media-
bullshit.
That's a
There's
really good
also a
point.
broad-
For-profit
okay,
media is
stop
not
with that,
aligned with
okay.
truth. Yeah, it's great.
Okay, sure.
Oh,
But
hold
it's-
on. I want to
the-
see.
the- but we all
thought Ben Shapiro. We all
One
thought Ben
time, one
STL
time.
is talking. He hasn't spoken all. Go ahead.
I mean, I was just saying, of course, for-profit media isn't associated with truth, but aligned with a lot of
Yeah,
that.
so we
is
should
that
have government media.
There has
That's
been
a
a
really
lot
good
of
idea. We should have government
state-funded
media.
propaganda as well. Like Israel is putting fucking ads on TVs
Right,
in
and also
America
Qatar,
aimed at
AJ's
You got
children.
it. You got your retard
Al Jazeera
social
is also out
buzzword
there.
in.
Qatar.
Aimed
It's not
at
just
back to the
Israel.
topic.
children.
We can talk about people other than just Israel as doing this kind of
Anti-capitalism
thing.
moment.
The idea
I
that
can
you
finally
specifically
speak.
want to
Shut
talk
the
about
fuck up.
Israel is strange, right?
I got halfway through a sentence and you're like, you only want to talk about Israel. Nice job.
Yeah.
Israel's putting on propaganda because they have a shit ton of fucking money.
Right,
and
but you're saying
they're
that is
using
the
it.
only government media
Let him
that's involved in
The
this
first
conflict.
thing he said.
Let
Holy
him
shit! Let him
finish.
finish. You're weird.
All I was saying is that Israel has been funding ads in the United States aimed at children, aimed at parents, explicitly trying to get them to support the Israeli military against Palestinians by like saying, "Hey, babies
has
were
more
murdered,"
funding?
pushing that out, right? And we've seen
Okay,
again,
who
like
has more funding? The YouTube ads of Israel or Al Jazeera?
Do you think they're pushing the
Probably
same
Israel.
message,
What?
like identical levels
I
of
think-
propaganda?
Do I think that Al Jazeera is Qatari propaganda? Let me just be very
Quibbles,
clear.
next time you
Yes.
have a thought, just fucking let it go. Just please.
Hold on. So hold on. No, I want to make a serious point here. Listen, propaganda, information warfare is a part of the war effort. Money and logistics is a part of the war effort. Public support is a part of the war effort. So if Israel, whatever you want to blame their geopolitical fuck ups and causing the situation in the first place, they just suffered something that is probably proportionally more significant than 9/11 was to the United States. Like, if you divide out the amount of civilians slaughtered in their country, men, women, and children, at gunpoint, knife point, rifle point, I don't give a shit if they beheaded one baby or 40 babies. Shooting a fucking baby or stabbing a baby is fucked up enough for me to think that you need to be hunted to the ends of the earth.
Why would anyone
Why lie? I'll answer that.
They don't think
I'll
they-
answer that.
Because the answer is
No,
they're not trying to
I'll literally
lie,
answer that.
really.
One time.
I'll answer that.
Well,
Because the
wait, really
okay.
quick. Why would Ben Shapiro lie, though? That's the thing.
Okay, why?
Just answer
Okay,
that. I don't
here,
think he's willingly
number one,
lying.
I want to answer the question, but basically, we don't have because here's the thing: once a family is slaughtered inside their homes, there's only a few amount of people who are going to go in there. They're going to be military, law enforcement, and they're going to be the coroner's office. Which, by the way, just to give you like the logistical horror show that this is, the coroner's office probably doesn't have enough refrigerated areas in order to maintain the bodies. So they're probably renting trailers in order to maintain the bodies. And then on top of that, because there's 1,300 dead instantaneously, there are families that are probably rotting inside their own homes right now. So I just want to paint that logistical picture. So the people who are first responders, security forces, and coroners and medical people, they don't have the ability to go to social media in order to create war propaganda to support their side. They're too busy actually dealing with the trauma and horror that they're dealing with. So they leave that up to propagandists. And by the way, you're asking why Ben Shapiro is pissed off sharing things that are unconfirmed. It's probably because he's a Jew who sympathizes with Israel and thinks that 1,300
who sympathizes with Israel.
Okay, hold on. I'm not done yet. So he just hears 1,300 men, women, and children were butchered inside their own homes at the hands of terrorists. I don't give a flying fuck if this thing is verified. I'm going to share it so I can stoke up support for the war effort so Israel can go in and do a ground invasion and kick Hamas in the fucking teeth. That's his
I guess it's
priority.
I thought he was better than that. I thought he was better than
I think
that.
the larger-
I can.
I think the larger issue-
Can I
Wait,
add one
Get
thing to
out
counter,
there.
please?
Wait.
Can I
Wait,
add one thing to
let's have Stardust
counterpoints?
go first. Let's have Stardust
Okay.
go. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's super important for people to know. I understand that this is a conflict that's been going on for 70 years, but when it comes to a militarily escalating things like this, where like combat has been engaged, and this is going to be an ongoing combat situation, you have to be aware of a couple of things. There is going to be for the next few months, I don't know how long it's going to take, maybe 6 months, maybe longer, right? For next however long, there's going to be a massive amount of propaganda from both sides. It's going to come from Israel, it's going to come from Palestine. Then on top of that, you've got people who are pro-Israel, who are going to be posing as Palestinians and posting things that are completely untrue to make them look bad eventually. And you're going to have the same thing on the Israeli side. You're going to have Palestinian not pro-Palestinian, but you're going to, sorry, I should have said Hamas. You're going to have pro-Hamas people on the other side posing as Israeli people, claiming things that are going very easily verifiably untrue. And that is to make Israel look bad. This is just kind of part of it. It's when there is an escalation like this.
That's what we've been saying.
That it's like, yeah, you are not going to be able to tell for a bit, and it's going to be really, really murky. So
For sure. And it's worth pointing out that like a lot of this has to do-
no, hold on, Quibbles. Lauren De Laguna wanted to go after Stardust, so
Oh, I'm
Lauren De
sorry.
Laguna.
Go for it.
No, I didn't. I didn't. I was
No?
nodding
Okay.
along to what she was saying.
Our
She was making
our
good
Quibbles,
points.
you make
Anybody else that's not
Yeah,
Quibbles?
it's worth
Yeah.
pointing out that a lot of this has to do, like, yes, a lot of it is to do with the people who are actually producing content, but a lot of it also has to do with the people who are consuming content. We're very quick to like have a snap judgment, and that snap judgment response to like ongoing situations, I think, is a really like damaging like desire that we have as a public. I think it's a lot, like just in general for all of these kinds of things that are ongoing situations. It's probably worth like just taking like literally 24, 48 hours and just like shutting up and listening and trying to understand what's going on before you start trying to make a guess at what's,
And,
you know, the
yeah,
right
and one
situation
thing- if
of
I-
that
yeah.
individual case. Yeah, go for it.
If one thing to add to that, a great example is the recent convoy, bombings. Now we've had like 24 to about 24 hours, maybe 48 hours. I don't know how long it's been, but I have seen at least I've seen like the intelligence community start to debunk one of those recordings because it was inconsistent with airstrikes, and it ended up being
Video
ended
game.
up most
Hold up.
likely not a video game. Actually, ended up being more consistent with
The
with,
BBIED. Yeah, I saw
yeah,
that video.
yeah.
So hold
yeah,
on. But
Warhammer
here's the thing.
yeah.
Here's I got to make this point, and I want to make like 2 points. So one, with the VBIED video. Here's the thing. Whenever something is coming out, I'm trying to like say something about media literacy. Basically, don't trust shit in a war zone. People are going to be posting 5-year-old footage. They're going to be posting 10-year-old footage.
Yep.
They're going to be posting things that are from a different part of the city that they're
Some
saying
motherfuckers
is
get
related to
burned
this
from
thing.
Ukraine.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, who was the fighter pilot in
Thank you.
Ukraine? That guy. Good
There
for
was
him.
so much
Yeah.
So,
information
anyways,
the first few
the
months.
the ghost of
yeah.
Kiev. Go the
Yes.
ghost of Kiev. So love that guy.
Yeah.
Anyways,
And
so
Snake
the
Island.
point is, hold on. I saw the aftermath of a bombing that allegedly like 70 people died and like 150 people were injured in an airstrike in Israel or whatever the fuck. That VBIED was in my experience, just dealing with these kinds of things or whatever, that was pretty fucking small. I would be very surprised if that was what killed 70 people and wounded 150. So what I'm saying is, while there was probably an airstrike that killed 70 people and wounded 150, there was also probably in a different town a Hamas fighter driving a VBIED or driving explosives cross town. Something went wrong and the car exploded and it probably wounded or killed a few dozen people. So what I'm saying is, like, you don't know, so don't make a firm judgment on any of that shit until it's like actually out, like you said, 6 months or a year later.
It
Yeah,
is really
I don't-
fucked up though, because I have to say I've been having people in my comment section saying you're a really terrible Jew, like fuck you for not making a comment on this whole conflict. How do you not care about your people? And I feel guilty, but I feel also like I don't have any reliable information, and so it's really upsetting me. It's like making me sick to my stomach.
You're not.
It's
You're
one of
not.
the
Okay,
issues.
hold on.
Yeah.
I want to say. I have to leave in literally a minute, so I just want to say a conciliatory thing before I leave. So
run day.
your people are going to attack you for your identity. You are not a bad Jew by waiting for the information to come out. Because what happened is with a Hamas attack, I was one of those people who was trying to hold my cool on social media, but I was 100% bloodthirsty. Go find them, go kill them now. Airstrikes, ground forces, special forces, whatever, wipe Hamas off of the planet. And then what happened was Israel started doing what I felt like doing. They started doing airstrikes, and they cut off the water, and they cut off the power, and all that kind of stuff. And then I realized that electricity and water is being cut off from hospitals where they're probably keeping NICU babies who have nothing to do with the fucking conflict. And after 3 days, these people are going to dehydrate to death. And after, if you do a ground invasion or an airstrike, there's going to be all this collateral damage. And then you start seeing Palestinian families coming out with their kids covered in dust, in blood, in rubble. And just because it's not as personal as a terrorist coming into your home and slaughtering you doesn't mean that those families aren't dead or their family members don't feel like seeking justice. So I would say that while people might be bullying you or pressuring you to take a firm stand on one side or the other, the truth is, like, you got to stand with, like, I would say humanity, basically, which is we do need to seek justice. We do need to kill Hamas terrorists who participated in these horrific crimes, but we do, to the maximum degree possible, you do not punish innocents for the crimes of the guilty. And that's something that I hope brings you some solace. But anyways, it's 11:30. I've been on for like 4.5 hours. I got work tomorrow. I appreciate you all. I parasocially love all of you, except for President Sunday, who's a coward and a cunt, and I hope he stops participating in the debate sphere. Pay yourself $100 to do theory every day, you useless fuck. Good night.
Okay.
Night.
I was gonna say last.
Cheers
Okay.
to that. I wish I had a fucking glass.
So just to go along
I take a lot of
what
issue
Dylan
with the
was
fact that
saying
he like has this whole
Okay,
fucking
okay.
soapbox and then dips out. But
All right. Yeah. I'll just,
again,
go with what-
I don't
what Dylan was
see
saying.
anybody like everyone keeps coming up again. It's not answered by anybody else here, which is what the fuck is Israel supposed to do? Like the thing is
It's a
well,
hard
there are
choice.
Palestinian people that are being bombed. Okay, yes, that is true. You use human shields, right? Which, as Israel has done so as well. You know, they outlawed it in 2002 for crying out loud, which is insane, but whatever. Nevertheless, you're using human shields. You're, say, well, we can't cut off the water. We can't cut off the power. Okay, so what do? They can't bomb. They can't cut off the water. They can't cut off the power. They're just supposed to go door to door and just exhaust their own troops to an extreme degree and not actually have any guarantee that reduces civilian casualties at all. It's
actually,
like,
I want to.
we just keep hearing like this platitudes of like, oh, this is ethnic cleansing. This is all this horrible shit.
Okay,
But it's like,
so-
well, what the fuck is your solution?
Right.
then?
I want to
Right.
give
The
some numbers
solution
here.
Okay, so I just want to one factoid. Okay, all right. So what I from everything that I've read, it's not the bombing. It's not like gunfire that kills people the most in war. What kills people the most in war ends up them having their infrastructure, their utilities, their water taken away from them. That will by far kill the most people, right? And that is by far going to be something that it punishes the most civilians. So do I have an answer for you on what exactly they should do? Not really, because I'm not a war strategist. What I can say though is cutting off the water, cutting off the utilities. I can say that they shouldn't be doing that. That's my
Why?
I wanted to speak to
I think I agree.
the bombings.
But
No. So you
Well,
earlier in
just
this
why?
Fabian, earlier in this conversation,
One
you
of the
talked about
things-
like the
I have an
not
answer to why.
bombings.
I have an answer to why. Because if you cut off the water, you're going to be killing civilians, and what that's going to do is going to make it's going to rise the support of Hamas. So if you don't want Hamas to fucking because for every civilian that you kill, a family member of theirs is going to want to kill you.
I'm not concerned with
one of the-
Israel's strategy to win the hearts and minds of the Palestinian people. I'm only concerned with natural law philosophy and restitution and getting rid of the
After
aggressors,
Fabian
which
goes,
is
I want
Hamas.
SDL to go.
I don't give a
But
fuck
Hamas-
about
yeah,
But
like,
what,
Hamas
no,
are
no,
the
but
last
what I'm
ones to
saying
lose
is,
water.
if you kill a civilian, their
just curious
family
what
will
his
want to kill
position
you.
is.
They will join Hamas.
I don't care.
Wait,
But that will make
Hamas
I
grow.
want SDL to go. Wait, I want SDL to go. SDL go.
Sure. So I just wanted to say, Fabian, at the beginning of this conversation, you talked about like the knock bombs. Throughout this conversation, you've tried to present like maybe Israel is doing a more humane option than it really seems. It's absolutely not. For an idea of how intense the bombing is, they're dropping 1,200 bombs per day. In the year of 2003, we dropped 80 bombs per day in Iraq. Okay, the scale here is immense.
Okay.
Gaza is one of the most dense places on earth. It is roughly as dense as Singapore. It is a city. You're dropping 1,200 bombs per day in a fucking city. Every place you hit destroys neighboring places.
What is the damage that the bombs do, though? Because U.S. bombs, we can take out like entire districts with one bomb. So, like, what is the damage that one bomb causes?
Yeah,
if you looked at the footage, that's exactly what's happening. Like there are buildings.
No, it's not.
And it just
if you look at the
destroyed.
footage, no, it's not. If you look at the footage, what you see is individual buildings, and then lots of buildings still standing directly next to those buildings. Why? Because these are precision missiles. When you say it's a large number of shots, of course it's a large number of shots fired because they're precision.
They're smaller
it's precisely
bombs.
Because they're smaller bombs,
And they're dropping double the bombs because they're knocking on the roof.
And not just shooting and destroying as many people as possible, as much carnage as possible. It is because they are doing the more just thing that it's a large number.
Can I just step in?
Yeah,
So I don't think anyone can reasonably expect Israel to not like try to get rid of Hamas after what happened. I think that's inevitable. Okay, but I think it is reasonable to say that given the way the IDF are and what they've done in the past, I think it's reasonable to say that there are some places where the UN, for example, are rightly calling them out for overstretching, like the water thing. I don't know what significant military advantage they're gaining by holding back the water. They haven't even said it's for a military advantage. They're saying that they're holding back the water to use as a bargaining chip for hostages. I don't really know what like rule of conduct that's supposed to be based around. The last people who are going to struggle for water are Hamas. They've got stockpiles, they've got their tunnel networks. That's a ridiculous move. That just find some simple things like that. It seems to be the case that they might have used white phosphorus. I don't know if it's confirmed. They've been accused of it by a few human rights orgs. There's pictures. Like I don't know like if they've done that like they did in 2008. That's ridiculous as well.
That's not. It's not. So for two things.
You can't use the smoke rounds in populated areas, which is where they use it. Stop doing this defense.
Listen. No, this is like the whole. No. The whole white phosphorus thing is silly. First of all, you're right. It's not confirmed. Human Rights Watch says that they looked at some videos and they said we can confirm because we saw it in the video and that's what it is. Which
that's not why they said it. They said it because Amnesty collected samples. But sorry, go on.
Well, so I've been watching my kids this weekend. So last I looked at it, that's what the story was. But maybe there was additional information. I apologize on that. But regardless, let's say they're using Willie Pete. Even if they're using Willie Pete, they're using Willie Pete to target areas right before a bomb hits, right? Or they're using it for a smoke screen. Considering the fact that they don't have a large ground invasion, they're obviously not using it for a smoke screen, right? They're not using it as an aerial target for ground troops to follow. So there's only one reason they would use Willie Pete, and that is to make their target precision their targeting more accurate, right?
What's Willie Pete?
So if they're doing that, Willie Pete's white phosphorus, sorry. And so it's the same, it's just the acronym. So if you're using white phosphorus in that area as a marker, and you're saying it's the worst because it causes burning and stuff, this is like a minute and a half before that whole fucking building blows up. After they've already told everyone to fucking leave, they've called everyone, the sirens have gone. So like, and on top of that, Israel is the one that invented the alternative to white phosphorus markers. So it just doesn't make sense that they're using white phosphorus markers in that area unless they're pretty goddamn certain that that area that they're using the Willie Pete in is not populated, or they're just being retarded. And if they're just being retarded, I guess.
Also,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So you're half right about you're half right about the smokescreen use, but the problem is that they haven't always done that before. They've done it when civilians have been in the area, and that's been caught photos. I'm just saying, if that's the case that they've used it when civilians are still there, that is obviously a huge problem. But the main thing I wanted to ask is, what military advantage are they? Which military advantage are they gaining from stopping the water?
I'm not the general in charge of this. I don't know the
You
fucking
started this by
ground
asking us
situation.
what we would want to do.
But you were asking us why should they stop cutting off the water?
Yes, I'm asking why not, and then you're saying
gain,
why
they
should
don't gain any military advantage. I feel like you'd have to be presented with a positive to say why it's okay to do that.
Wait, stop us one to cook.
So your argument is that we should assume that they're doing it precisely to be cruel.
Okay.
Well, no, they said they were doing it as a bargaining chip for hostages.
Please, guys,
Wait,
I swear to
Fabian,
God,
go.
I'm gonna fucking.
Stardust, go.
I'm going to sue Doku if you.
Is it me
Stardust,
or
I just
her?
muted you. Stardust, I just muted you. Stardust, if you.
I'll be very quick.
Just make your point. Stardust, go.
Okay, all right.
What
so
the
if I
okay, who's the fuck is going? Okay, Jesus
Okay,
Christ.
Stardust, go.
Okay, right. Okay, so I don't think that cutting off the water, like you're saying, why shouldn't they cut off the water? Cutting off the water, like how many days does it take for somebody to die from lack of water, from dehydration, right? I think that cutting off the water,
makes no sense.
It takes only
No,
like a
she's
few
right.
days, really. Yeah.
Who's
it
in the
only takes a
northern
few
Gaza
days.
right now?
She's right.
Like who's
She's
in the
right.
area where the water's cut off?
Tons
The water was
of
cut off
people who
everywhere
can't
until
leave.
today.
Everywhere, dog.
Civilians who
Just
can't
because-
leave.
They're bringing.
Not
Let me
millions.
finish
but
what I'm saying.
hundreds
Let
of
her
thousands.
cook.
is one
They
point
have
one
stockpiles.
million.
Let her cook. Let her cook.
Okay. So
Let her cook.
So you're saying why shouldn't they cut off the water? One, we've got civilians who are calling us like IDF allegedly. I don't know if this is true. I haven't verified it yet, but allegedly there are civilian Gazans who are calling IDF, who are saying that they can't leave, that Hamas people have taken their car keys, or that they're afraid to leave, etc., right? We've got that. We've got also Hamas issuing, right after Israel tells everybody to leave, Hamas issues their own thing through to everybody in the region saying, don't leave because that's propaganda. Then,
they always do that, yeah.
You've got hostages in that area. If you don't think that the Hamas that is there is not going to have hostages, they have hundreds of hostages. And then, fourthly, when you deprive people of things like water, and you deprive people of things like utilities and ways to feed themselves, they get very, very, very desperate. And that is when they will cave to people like Hamas. I feel that if you are fed, if you are you have the bare minimums at least met, and you're not afraid of your child dying of a dehydration, that you are going to be a little bit more likely to not cave to everything that Hamas wants you to do.
Yeah, especially when the dehydration is at the hands of Israel.
Wait. Quibbles has his hands up. Go.
Well, let me respond to the. Oh my God.
Wait. Quibbles can cook first, but he has to air fry. And then Fabian, you can slow cook. Okay. All right. Quibbles, go air fry. Go.
Okay.
I don't know what this
The first thing that I'll point out is I think that you're
Make it
right
fast. Thank you.
that the water issue is massive. Obviously, they are using it as a way to get back the 150 people who were kidnapped, including 17 Americans, by Hamas. And so, there's those are relevant lives, but obviously stealing water is not an acceptable thing. But the broader point is okay, why is it that Gaza is not water independent? Why is it that this is a place that is completely reliant on Israel to have access to water? And the answer is very clear cut. The answer is because every single time that any international effort is made to have there be water lines across all of Gaza, Hamas literally digs them out of the ground to literally make them into rockets to literally be shot at Israeli children.
Isn't that an unverified video?
And
so literally an unverified
I've
video.
heard mixed reviews.
No,
of
that is
Like,
not unverified. Not
who
at all
verified it?
unverified.
Who verified it?
I'm sorry?
Who verified
Also,
it?
how do
That
you
they've been
make-
using water lines?
Yeah, who
That's
verified it?
been happening for literally like a decade or more. What are you talking about?
Okay.
If it isn't
I'm not
happening,
saying
then
Water
it's
box. Have
I'm
you
not
heard about
making a
that?
claim
Because
about
you
anything
seem
that's
very, very
happening.
knowledgeable.
I'm making a claim about something that's water problem in Gaza.
Okay.
I'm making
So can I
a claim about a
respond?
water
Wait,
problem in
Scott,
Gaza.
Scott, you
It's
can
not a statement
over.
about anything that has
Wait,
happened this week.
Coffee, shut the fuck up, Scott. You can oven roast now.
sorry.
Thank you.
Go for
Okay,
it.
so first let me Steelman Stardust's position on the problems with cutting off water. I think the major thing that you missed is the medically infirm that are incapable of leaving. There's always
true, I
going to
did
be a
miss that,
large
yeah.
group of citizens that are, they're hooked up to some form of machine. They literally can't move, right? And this is going to be true of any conflict, of the bombing as well, right? You can tell people to leave a building as much as you want, but that doesn't mean that some people are going to be capable or have someone. There's going to be those casualties. So the thing here is when dealing with the water is, well, we say it's a human rights violation to cut off water. Well, what does cutting off water entail? It means that Israel is no longer going to supply water, right? This is not them going into Gaza and destroying, a dam to ensure that all of the people are no longer able to get water. This is at their own cost, though. Gaza is also the largest welfare nation in world history. So like there's a lot of that water is being paid for by outside actors. But even still, Israel doesn't have a duty to supply electricity and water to its enemies. Yes. Now, I'm not saying the Palestinian people are all their enemies, but Hamas are. Hamas are absolutely their enemies, and Hamas have political control of the region. And so there's, the idea, and it's the same argument, right? You could just as easily make the same
just
argument.
nuke every country that is an enemy. You nuke them and kill everybody, including the enemy and the civilians. Doesn't matter if you have any casualties.
Smith, that's a straw man. I disagree with him. That's obviously a straw man.
Yeah,
it's an extension easily to the end.
It's not an extension. It's not an extension because if you want me to go through why I believe in the gentleness principle and utilizing that ethical system in terms of like person A, person B, person C, and human shields, we can get into that. But like people just get mad because I use logic. So
the point is there's a difference between failing to protect and actively harming someone.
Right. You could use the same argument, like the very same people that are talk about how this is a war crime will be real fucking quiet about water being cut off to Crimea with a large civilian population in 2014. And the reason is because we recognize that you don't have a duty to supply water to your enemy when you're fighting your enemy.
As someone who
people will SDL would like to know.
I want to quote the United Nations. The imposition of sieges
just want to say I verified the rocket thing.
Can you go after SDL?
I know we both.
Can you go after SDL?
Well, I just want to say really quick. I
want to hear the UN.
Go ahead, SDL.
The UN said literally this week, quote, the imposition of sieges that endanger the lives of civilians by depriving them of goods essential for their survival is prohibited under international humanitarian law. It must be justified by military necessity. So we've asked you over and over, what is the military necessity here? And all you've said, well, Hamas is in there too. That's it? That's the military fucking justification? Are you for real?
Yeah,
That's why he brought up the nuke comparison.
Yeah. So here's the thing is, I don't give a fuck about like some international organization's imposition of what they believe through popular kind of ideas.
Why do you oppose civilian death in general? What's the moral principle that really leads you to oppose civilian death? Just say that, and that's the same justification that I'd use here. Why do you oppose killing civilians?
Why do I oppose killing?
Yeah, just give the moral reason.
Under what context? Under what context?
In wars in general?
Yeah, I'm asking you for specificity. Maybe Stop being retarded.
So it's okay if you do it. Is it okay if you do it in a certain way?
Yeah, like I
would say. So what
there is no
I would say is that
justification in killing civilians because there is no justification in war.
As,
no matter what, both sides within war, there is no justification in war. There's only the actions you need to take.
This. I guess I will walk through this because you guys, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, sure.
Things.
I got it.
So like person A,
we're getting the same.
So I think we understand what you're saying.
Look,
yeah, except
we are not here to have a moral debate.
We are not here.
No, what do you mean we're not here to have a moral debate? You asked me, you demanded a moral question of me, and then you refused.
Wait, stop. How about let's stop for now? Lauren wanted to cook something. Let's have her air fry. Let's have her air fry.
Stop saying this people are cooking and air frying. What the fuck are you talking about?
Lauren's got the stove right now. Stop speaking.
She's got the stove right now. She wants to cook.
No, okay. All I wanted to say was
let it be known I was demanded a moral question and then not allowed to answer.
Yeah, you can answer after Lauren. Yeah, she wants to air fry something. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to air fry anything too much. I just wanted to say that I checked the water pipe issue, and it does appear as though Hamas was digging up water pipes and using them as rock or explosives of some sorts. But then again, that goes back to the issue of because I also saw the whole that's completely fictitious, that's been debunked news. And so that means that news about it being debunked is actually fictitious. So it's
so just for reference, the video originally was posted by an Israeli military account, right? It was never posted on any Hamas account.
When
So
I
that's
made that
what
statement, I wasn't making a statement about a thing that happened this week. I'm saying this is a fact of the broader issue of water access in Gaza writ large, beyond just this week, for decades, is a result of this broader issue of these being dug out of the ground by Hamas, which is just true over a period of decades. It's not a matter of something that you found on Twitter this week.
Okay, I'm just going to ask. I just want to go around you guys because there's a much easier way to put the question. Like, I just want to ask maybe Lauren, like, cutting off, because again, I think Fabian, you mentioned Crimea. As someone who opposes what Ukraine did to the dam with Crimea, the slight difference is that dam was mostly for irrigation. Like, Crimea had other ways of getting water, i.e. from Russia. There was another state that was responsible for them because they were annexed. Gaza gets its water either from Israel or from no one. So as a idea, we know it's illegal. So just the moral question: to cut off food and water,
70% of their water, though.
To cut off food and water as the only supplier. Do you, as a bargaining chip for hostages, do you think you approve of that or no, Lauren?
Me personally, I don't think so, and here's why though. It's not just because I think it's morally wrong. I don't even think it's an intelligent strategy to help Israel win, because part of Hamas's strategy is using the Palestinian people as martyrs and at hurting them, so to make it easier, like in the international world, to be perceived as the victims. And so when you cut off the water, I don't think that we're actually going to be hurting Hamas very much. I think we're just going to end up hurting the Palestinian people. And I don't think that's going to end up helping Israel in the long term.
Do you think that Palestine knows that?
Okay, Quibbles, same question.
Do you think the Palestinian people know that?
Wait, same question to Quibbles.
I think that an equivalent question is, for a long time, Singapore, for example, was very.
Oh my God, it's a yes or no question.
Yeah, Singapore for a long time was reliant.
I just wanted to get through you three quickly so we could all agree that cutting off the war
I'm
was a
sorry
bad
that there's a
idea.
little bit of nuance here. Singapore for a long time was entirely reliant on Malaysia for water. I think that Malaysia cutting them off from water in order to make demands of the Singaporean people would have been absolutely abhorrent. I don't think that I'm comfortable with the idea that Smith said that it's equivalent to like nuking. I think there's a difference between actively killing someone and allowing them to die, but I don't think that in this particular case that allowing the people to die is the correct thing to do, either strategically or morally for Israel.
I'll take that as a
I just don't see the difference if they're dead. It's my worldview.
Because there's a difference. Okay. Do you think that? Hold up. Do you think that it's the same for Malaysia to cut off their supplying of water to Singapore as a place that themselves needs water for their own population, right? Do you think that's the same as going in and destroying a bunch of dams and destroying the ability for Singapore to have access to water?
It's not the same thing, but Israel is still making an active decision to cut off food and water when they know the damage is going to do.
They're knowing that on the numbers, we're going to hurt this many civilians, we're going to hurt this many.
One time, thank you. One time.
So, my stance, there's no justification for what Israel is doing, but it makes sense from Israel's perspective. They just had the third worst terrorist attack in the world take place in their country, and then the people of Palestine celebrated it. They were fucking, parading in the streets, celebrating what the fuck was happening. No, you can say, hang on, no. You can say that's all propaganda, but it did happen in the Gaza streets. There is videos of that. So the people of Israel then see that. Do you think the people of Israel are going to feel very justified in giving them food and water? No, they're going to say, fuck you. I want you to starve to death. I want you to have no water. There is no justification in the action, but there is an understanding as why they took it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm just not comfortable with this siege being carried out by a bunch of like emotional fuckwits who are just using that reasoning to stop water supplies. I really hope the IDF knows what they're doing, because this is a huge task they're taking on with trying to take out Hamas in Gaza.
So as the lone person, right? So, back all the way back to SCL, right? The idea is like, you believe that there needs to be a military justification. And what I would say is that,
as does the UN.
Necessarily. Yeah, I don't care. Again, let me get.
I hope the UN sanctions Israel then.
dude, you haven't questioned the legitimacy of any fucking liberal democracy that isn't fucking socialist before, and many other times, or they haven't questioned the legitimacy of laws in general. Like, it's silly, right?
Okay, you're
questioning
a law which is please provide water to civilians, and I asked you why is it wrong to kill civilians, and you said I'm gonna have to give you a moral lecture for that one. Okay, dude, come on, we're in a conversation about Israel-Palestine. Can you please condense it to like a 5-word thing and just move on?
Yeah, no, I was just asking you to ask a pointed question so that I can actually give you a response, as opposed to vague things so that you hope that you can get like a gotcha because you're too fucking surface level, right? Like, so again, in terms of the water, I don't know the military fucking advantage, right? I don't know. No one here, everyone pretending like cutting off the water is doing it to hold. I think
they didn't say it was for military advantage.
Dude, I just had like 5 of you talk about why this is wrong. I'm the only one fucking on this position, right? So everyone here that is saying, oh, well, you know, I think this is a bad idea. That's great. That's an opinion, but you know, you don't actually know what the value of that is. It was not very long ago in the debate, maybe an hour ago, where people were talking about, you know, is this going to be blowback that increases support for Hamas, or are the actions of Israel going to be seen as things that reduce the support for Hamas because they blame Hamas for what it is that Israel's doing? We don't know one way or the. So when you talk about strategy,
hang on,
right? This
we do know.
No.
Do you think?
No, you don't.
Do you think U.S. occupation led to the creation of ISIS? Do you think it led to the creation and increase of ISIS?
That's retarded. Hold on.
I would say U.S. occupation literally led to ISIS.
One time.
Avis,
no.
Avis, the last thing
I know
you said,
that what you're saying is retarded because you're saying that we do know the future. You don't know the future.
It's not that. I have a better point. The last thing you said, Avis, it also disregarded this thing, because I think the real issue here, because I was asking, do the people of Palestine know that if it's true that a lot of their water supply was cut off because Hamas wanted to use the fucking pipes for missiles and shit, do the people of Palestine even know, like, how many of them think it's because of Israel? How many of them think it's actually because Hamas is fucking terrorizing?
Dude, I don't have
so the whole thing. I'm not asking you for an answer. I mean, it's a rhetorical question.
So fucking, like,
can you please shut up? So the real thing here is, like, it seems like the real meat of the problem here is information warfare. So like, whoever is able to propagandize the population of both Israel and of Palestine is going to have a massive advantage in this.
Do you think the people of Palestine positively of Israel?
Stop. SDL had his hand up. I'll let SDL go first, and then Quibbles had his hand up next, and then I'll let Lonerbach go third. SDL, can you cook, please?
Yeah, so you asked what's the purpose of cutting off the water? Well, the Israeli defense minister said, quote, "We are putting a complete siege on Gaza. No electricity, food, no water, no gas. It's all closed. We are fighting animals and acting accordingly." So you tell me what fighting animals implies in terms of military necessity. Are they starving out the pigs? Are they starving out some rats?
There's a
again, like you talk about.
Okay, so hold up. I'm next. Shut up.
Yes, I get it. 7 of you are against me.
Fabian can respond briefly. And then
I only got to one of the responses, which is that you don't know the future in terms of the ethics of it, right?
Yeah.
Look, what that statement is probably ill-advised, right? Like, that statement is a fucked up thing to say about human beings in general, right? I don't know the strategic value of that statement in terms of drumming up support from Israel and like social media versus like again, the tactics of these things are all kind of like up in the air. We don't actually know in terms of that. In terms of the ethics of it, this idea is that, yes, if you're going to fight Hamas, you're going to have to siege the area that Hamas is in, right? Like, if you're going to siege a castle, there's going to be peasant farmers in the castle, right, that are not involved in the king's army. And those people are going to be caught in the crosshairs of a war. That is just how war works. What you want to do is you want to limit deaths while at the same time being as effective as possible. I don't know the effect of cutting off the water in terms of how much that's going to displace people that have water reserves and are moving south and are going to Egypt, or whether or not they're all going to fucking starve, or they're all going to die of thirst and starvation, right? I don't know these
water is
numbers.
super heavy.
What I'm saying is this idea that you believe that you go, I don't like that because it's going to harm people, just like bombs would, just like a ground invasion would, just like literally anything that Israel does other than just letting Hamas be. I don't like it. It upsets my fifis. Therefore, it's a war crime.
Okay, wrap it
Is
up.
a
Cutting off
dumb
water
fucking
harms
You
the
response.
ever
most
had your food
vulnerable
and water
people.
cut?
Okay, wrap it up.
Okay.
Quibbles, go.
And it harms Hamas. Like, what are you talking about?
Wait, wrap it up. Quibbles, go.
Bonerbox was saying the
harms
opposite. It
vulnerable
harms
people
Hamas less
too.
because they're going to have
Okay, wrap
access
it
to
up,
water.
Quibbles, go. Okay, Quibbles.
So we've come to what we've gotten to a long time ago. We asked SDL what he actually wants Israel to do in response to something that was objectively, as a proportion, worse than 9/11 that happened not from some country, not from terrorists on the opposite side of the globe, but people literally directly next door, right? That would
That's
have
not my
been
question,
literally
to be fair.
10 times worse if they didn't have an iron dome to stop the rockets that continue to be shooting down on them, including during a ceasefire. So the question is, what exactly? I understand what you don't want Israel to do, but what do you want Israel to do?
Can I just drop something in before SDL answers really quickly?
That's
No,
fine.
because you're the smart one. I want to hear from SDL.
I just feel like completely ignored for the last fucking 10 minutes because I did say twice that we do know what the value of cutting the water was. They said why. They said they did it to get hostages. Yeah. That's why they said they did it. And I think we've all agreed that was a really shit idea. But yeah, sorry, SDL go.
No, we didn't all agree that that's a really shit idea, and we didn't all agree that that is the
Everyone
only
but you.
fucking value.
Right.
Sure. So 9/11 is a great example. When after 9/11 we invaded two countries, did we make ourselves more free from terrorism? Did we make the world more free from terrorism? What is Israel doing right now that will make the world or Israel more free from terrorism?
Stupid.
I don't know why you can't.
I'm not fucking. I'm not
close your
Bush.
mouth. Maybe you're 5. Maybe you didn't learn, but close.
No,
Israel
it's
is
just
not
like-
doing
it's just like
anything
you're not
here
worth
that's
listening
making
You're not
to
answering the
because
question.
it's so silly.
Fabian, I'm
You're not
on
answering
your
the question. What
side.
should they do?
Yeah, so I think that Lonerbox was talking about a small military incursion or continuing like they've done previously, targeted military attacks. Israel is not doing that. When I say Israel is dropping 1,200 bombs a day, they are not targetedly just attacking Hamas points. They are attacking thousands of people. Literally 10,000 homes have been demolished. Okay? Those were not all 10,000 Hamas homes. Hamas has maybe 30,000 members. Okay? Come on. The idea that Israel is being
who do you think they're attacking? Who do you think they're attacking?
Who's attacking?
Israel. Who do you think is attacking?
Do you believe they're just indiscriminately attacking Palestinians?
They have.
I want to hear from SDL. No one else talk. SDL.
They have specific.
Who do you think they're attacking?
They've specifically said they are aiming for damage, not precision. So they're aiming probably to
Right,
damage
of who?
the area.
Damage of who?
Wait, when did they say that? Because the only thing
what
that I've heard
damage?
Israel say is they're looking for the complete eradication of Hamas. Like
Of Hamas.
the only thing they've said is their two
Damage
goals
to Hamas.
is to save hostages and eradicate Hamas.
I don't believe
that they don't
hold
hate the Palestinians.
Hold on. I want to clarify something.
Israeli Defense Forces spokesperson Daniel Hagari said, quote, the emphasis is on damage and not on accuracy, which I believe was in response to a question about hitting civilian housing.
Put that in yeah.
No, stop. You don't know. Like the point of the damage, not accuracy, is probably because they're clearing their way for a ground invasion. That's why there are probably more targets than there are ostensibly just Hamas infrastructure.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm more concerned about things like utilities and water than I am about things like bombing and stuff like that, to be honest with you.
Well, good, because Israel has been bombing those too. According to the UN, 20 water infrastructure related buildings have been fucking hit.
Yeah,
which is also a war crime.
You just keep saying, stop fighting Hamas, stop fighting a war.
No, he's saying do it with war crimes.
I'm so sorry about this. What is
stop
the
doing all the things that you're doing?
Stop doing war
What is your
crimes.
answer?
Hang on.
The basic moral
Can I ask a realistic question right now?
You're refusing to give a positive position.
I said military intervention.
Wait. Okay.
Everyone stop yelling. SBL. What is your positive position in terms of what is to be done about Hamas as a threat, right? Not as a form of vengeance or retribution, right? Let's assume that Hamas is an active threat that is carrying out attacks, right? And that this is a form of defense is to eradicate Hamas, right? What do they need to do in order to eradicate Hamas that will not upset you and think that Israel is the big evil bad guy?
What I said earlier, if you were listening, was a limited military intervention, more akin to what they were doing before. In like the typical military intervention, they're not dropping 1,200 bombs.
Okay, so what they were akin to doing before obviously didn't fucking work, or we wouldn't have had.
Yeah, but this isn't working either.
Worst terrorist attack.
Wait,
right?
let him finish.
Like,
Okay,
how
but
about they-
you just said what we should do is what we were doing before, which wasn't working, and
Yeah,
then you
because-
immediately said it wasn't working. So you prove that
Kill more
that your
because-
solution
keep killing
is
more
one that
people.
you think won't work. So what do
killing
you
more
think they
people.
should do that will work to eradicate Hamas?
Well,
Wait,
sure,
sure, what did
because
you
the whole
say?
point is
We
you can't
also
end terrorism
know
with
that the
violence. You
water-
have to end the apartheid. You have to end the
We
occupation.
know that
The
water
only way you
is
end
from
violence.
Wait,
Israel.
wait,
wait,
let me butt in here. Let me butt in here real
Let
quick.
Let him let him answer. Let him answer.
Well, he
He's
just
getting to
answered.
an
Wait,
answer.
wait,
This
wait,
is
wait,
not
Fabian,
No, he
attacking.
didn't answer.
Okay,
Yeah, let him
wait,
cook.
No, Estelle did not answer that.
Fabian muted. Yeah, Estelle, go.
I mean, I said
Just answer.
The bottom guy was right. Smith.
Okay, so
Okay,
if I-
Wait, hold on.
really quick,
Estelle
really
did not
quick,
answer.
really quick. I
Estelle,
want to,
answer the
I want to
question.
give an. He just did. I have another like answer.
What was his
I think,
answer?
Listen
I heard
next
no
time.
answer.
I said
What was your
military
answer?
intervention. It probably won't work because it never has fucking worked before. It didn't work when we invaded Afghanistan. Didn't work when we invaded Iraq. The only way you solve terrorism is giving people lives worth living. That's the
Yes,
whole fucking point.
Yes,
Okay,
they should
your solution-
win the
Wait,
hearts and minds of the.
Steph.
They
Wait,
should
Steph,
win hearts.
Hold on.
What did you want
What
to
is
say,
the
Smith?
solution that you're trying to get to?
End apartheid, end the
Yes.
occupation, lift
Okay.
up Gazans. 80% of young
End the-
Gazans don't have a
End
job.
the
You want them to
occupation.
not join
Dog,
a terrorist
there
organization?
are no-
Give them a
end the
job.
occupation. Since 2006, there have been no Israelis in Gaza. So that's not a thing that you actually mean. I don't know what you're talking about there. There is no
Who's
occupation.
keeping up the
of
walls?
Gaza.
Who's
There's
keeping up the
control over
walls?
Gaza
Okay,
is like
okay.
Gaza
I'm
is still
sorry.
legally
Okay, I'm muted
occupied.
now.
Controlling a
Israel
border
controls the
means that you're
maritime, the
occupying
airspace,
a
the
place.
border, the population registry.
When
Yes,
you
it's still
control a
occupied.
border,
Yeah, it's
controlling a
occupied.
border is not the same as an occupation.
Oh my god.
So
If I
I-
lock
I-
off
I wanna make this very
people,
clear.
if I lock
I wanna make this-
Wait, stop,
I
stop,
don't know
stop.
why
I wanna
you're
make this-
going out so hard.
Phoebe,
I wanna
you're
make
gonna-
this
you're gonna
very
have to
clear.
stop interrupting, or I'm gonna keep muting you. Okay, stop. Okay.
They can
Alright.
they,
I
they
wanna
can
make
win the
this
hearts and
very
minds.
clear.
They should win
Okay?
the hearts and the
So,
minds of the
by making this very
people in
clear,
Palestine. So they
what-
should the
what
direction.
has occurred is that
Stop
SDL
one at a
has-
fucking time.
Yeah, you unmuted me. So
Okay,
presumably
go
so that
ahead,
I
go
could
ahead,
speak
go ahead.
finally. So again, what I want to make this very clear.
Quickly go and then smack.
When
the half
SDL,
the
when SDL is pressed, he gives two
don't
solutions.
fucking
The
care.
first one is one. I know that you don't fucking care, but I don't fucking care what you have to say.
I don't
but
care
you're gonna let
about
me go,
how
and then
dumb
I'm
he
gonna let you
is.
go.
I want to posit something else.
No, I think it's worth pointing
get-
out.
again,
that
I
pointing
get-
out
I
dumb
get-
he is,
I don't care.
Oh my god.
Shush. Fabian,
Okay,
go
so
quickly, and then Smith can go.
I'm trying. Fucking a bunch of people are interrupting me.
Then
What's
you
the
just
fucking
go.
finish your fucking slam dunk? Fucking finish it.
Jesus Christ.
Fucking finish
Smith,
it.
relax. All right, so
Sam's going for a 3-point.
when
Finish
pressed, when pressed, SDL only gives two things. The first one is, here's a thing I don't believe, but I want you to kind of think I believe this thing because it doesn't showcase what my actual opinion is. And then he gives his actual opinion, and his actual opinion is don't fight Hamas. Do not do anything to counter the terrorists other than give them all of the welfare that they need, open up the borders, and give them the peace in their country, and just let Hamas be. Because if you fight
really
them
open
violence
borders
with
with Hamas
violence,
is a really
it
good
will
idea.
just create this. So you have proven that I was right, which is that you're just fucking running cover for Hamas, and that you don't actually want retribution, restitution, or self-defense for Israel, because you live in a fantasy world where we can just let
Retribution
fucking
is not the
terrorists
same
have
as
control.
self-defense.
Scott,
Wait, stop.
Scott,
Okay, okay.
Scott, I am.
Okay,
I
wait,
am
Didn't say
not
what.
in-
Stardust, Smith
Give it
is
as 1 of 3.
supposed to go next, okay? And then you can cook
Okay.
after Smith.
Fuck,
Okay, Smith,
fuck
go.
retribution. They deserve. Nobody deserves any retribution. I think retribution is basically always going to be a war crime, no matter what. But what they should do is they should obviously be fighting fucking Hamas. But what they should be, the most important, crucial thing here is they need to win the hearts and minds of the people of Palestine, which is something they've been failing to do the whole fucking time. So like that is like the same problem exists that has always been existing, and the solution is something that they've been refusing to do. Like whatever it is that will make like them actually see each other as equals. maybe it's impossible, but the fact that Hamas, if it's true that Hamas is actually part of the reason that people in Palestine's life is living hell there, means that they're like that's actually, we have a common enemy now. Like if they don't have water because of fucking Hamas, then there's something to fucking break bread on. So the thing that needs to be done is speaking to the people of Palestine so that they can have coordinated like support and like communication.
Okay, you can get back to Smith after Stardust cooks. Okay, Stardust go.
Yes. So excellently said, Smith. This is something that I've been saying. Is that there needs to be a way for Israel to kind of establish and the Palestinians to establish a relationship, to establish and build trust, to build goodwill, and restoring the power, restoring the water are things that you can do to do that, right? Taking the water, taking the power, that is, again, I will reiterate, it is the number one cause of death in war. Not bombing, not artillery. Number one cause of death in war is depriving people of water and making it very hard for them to consume food. And then also on top of that, there's also for some reason disease. I'm not sure I understand the whole thing, but disease is part of that too. But
it's tied to clean water.
Shut
up!
Yeah. Okay, stop fucking interrupting. Okay,
no,
relax. I'm helping her.
Fabian's correct. Correct. So I was kind of thinking, I'm like, well,
it's literally helping her argue against me.
I appreciate that, Fabian. But Fabian, I hate using ad homs, okay? But you have been using a lot during this, and I have to say, Fabian, you might want to get your ears checked, because as much as I disagree, I feel like I don't know if I disagree with SDL on everything, but I feel like I am pretty far from him. Or I don't know if I am. I don't know all of his issues. I feel like I've seen some stuff that he said. And yeah, I feel like I've seen some stuff that he said, and I don't really agree with everything that he says. I think I'm very much like a centrist, even if I'm like pro Palestine in this. But I do think he did present one of the things that Israel can do, which was what is SDL. You want to repeat one more time? The very last thing you said.
What, end the apartheid, end the occupation? Like
no. After that.
I actually don't know. Jobs, lifting up.
No, you said about intervention.
You need to get your ears checked.
I have no idea
what you're talking about. What they were doing in the past, and then said, "But this won't work anyways."
Okay. Wait.
You were the one that needs your ears checked. Sorry.
Stop. Fabian, would you like to? Wait. Stop. No, Adam, stop. Fabian, would you like to respond to Smith and Stardust?
No, it's very simple. I was just, what you missed is that he did give two solutions. And the first solution was one that he immediately said he didn't believe would work and didn't work in the past and won't work in the future. That was only a cover for the only solution that he was offering, which is to stop fighting and to stop restitution and to stop what may, obviously many in Israel believe to be a form of self-defense, to take out Hamas, and instead just just in the apartheid state, get rid of the blockade, and just see how many discotheques get blown up by suicide bombers in Tel Aviv, and like peace will reign and kumbaya. And that's what I was making fun of him for, because it's a sophomoric opinion.
So what do you have to say about us? What about our position, me and Stardust? What do you have to say about that?
Well, I mean, the position that you're giving is just platitudes that everyone can agree to. Obviously, we need open dialogue. Obviously, we need fucking people to come together. Obviously, we need discussions that like lead towards something positive.
They can.
Duh.
I'm not a war strategist. I will straight up say so.
It
I don't
seems
know
like you guys are getting stuck on this point. You guys are getting stuck on this one over and over and over again. So I'm gonna let STL cook. Okay, so STL, you may now air fry these motherfuckers. Go.
Well, sure. The basic point is this: what has worked at ending Hamas? Has it been all of the airstrikes? Has it been previous military action? Has any of it worked? Has invading Afghanistan ended the Taliban? Did invading Iraq end like terrorism in West Iraq? No. Like the way that you end terrorism fundamentally is about ending youth unemployment, giving men a purpose, and don't giving men with bachelor's degrees very high unemployment. Those are like
I don't know if that's necessarily true.
Okay.
I mean, this is
a, like
just point something out dichotomy,
to
right?
left there.
These things
hold on,
haven't
shut up.
worked.
No, Fabian, shut
hot
up. It's my
shot
turn.
fallacy
Shut up.
in the
Wait,
negative.
Fabian,
I
refuse-
Fabian,
I reject
Fabian, I'm
it.
gonna
It's my
mute
turn.
you.
It's my
Fabian,
turn.
I'm mute.
It's
Okay.
my turn.
All right.
Okay. So, to SDL's point there, that invading Gaza is not going to solve Hamas. You're right. It's not. There are multiple things that need to be dealt with simultaneously, and often the long-term security and the short-term security are two things that are not necessarily in line. In this case, the question of how do we stop thousands of rockets from being shot at innocent civilians in Israel is a different question than how do we get rid of Hamas writ large. And the first question of how do we stop the rockets from happening is a question that is worth answering beyond just this broader how do we end the win the hearts and minds and blah 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 of all of the people in Gaza in order to try to push them away from Hamas. To the second answer of how do we get them away from Hamas, it seems like this is a pretty good way of getting them away from Hamas. Unfortunately, it seems like Hamas is becoming less loved by its people, and that's a really good thing, right? But to the question of how do we stop the rockets, unfortunately, yeah, stopping rockets does mean crippling the ability of these terrorists to kill people.
Leaving aside
don't think
everything
you
that
can
could
win.
have been done until now, because it's done, assuming Israel gets in there and gets rid of Hamas, which is not guaranteed. They tried something similar in Lebanon in 2006 and completely failed to get rid of Hezbollah. It's different. Hamas are weaker. But also, for the record, Gaza is occupied, like, by every legal analysis possible. They control what goes in and out, the border, the maritime space, the airspace, the blockade. Yeah, it's occupied. Population registry. But as far as what happens next, let's assume that Israel gets in there, takes out Hamas, probably reoccupies. Maybe a question would be, what should they start doing to ensure that something like Hamas never comes up in Palestine again?
I hope to God that
You won't be able to.
the
Why
amount.
not?
you won't be
Wait.
able to.
Why not? Why not?
Because
So-
there's going to
Okay,
be a
I-
power vacuum, and as soon as there's a power vacuum, and then it's just like Afghanistan actually, because as soon as you get rid of the government that's currently in charge, then you have to create some sort of a prop government, and the people don't have any sort of like the American people love America because our government is supposed to be representative of us. But if you have just some prop government, you're not going to get the people to
wouldn't be
rally
prop,
around
though.
it.
Well,
You're
the
not
PA
gonna
have
get-
been in.
Yeah.
The PA have
I
been
was
in
just
charge
about
of
to say,
Gaza.
yeah.
The PA has been in charge of Gaza before, and there are
Yeah.
candidates from Fatah who are more popular than candidates from Hamas.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess it would be
I
PA.
think-
the most popular
I-
party is the PL or previously PLO. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Look,
Well, that's
the
not
PLO,
entirely
the
true.
PLO,
It's okay.
the PLO obviously, has a sordid history of, Jordan and Lebanon and all of the fun things. And you could say the same of Israel, obviously. But I hope that the kind of the vitriol and the negativity on both sides creates an opportunity for the Palestinian Authority, PLO, to be able to kind of come to the table. Because I do think that as Israel burns its good faith in the world stage, it also kind of by default gives a little bit of good faith to the PA and the PLO. I do think that there is a little bit of a after they step in, after Hamas is gone. So we could see a situation, as horrible as it is, right? Just kind of game theorying in the future. We could see a situation where Israel burns through all of its good faith, which then puts PLO in a very strong position to get a deal that's much more to their liking. And at the same time, they want that deal because of the strife and because of the, et cetera, et cetera. And the people in Israel want it. So like it could end up being like a kind of silver lining in the situation, if you can say that about thousands, possibly potentially tens and hundreds here in the near future dying.
Like, I'm just coping really hard, but it's been the case in history a lot that sometimes wars have gotten a lot worse before they got better, right? Like World War II and shit. Like, it's not like we just haven't seen that
True.
happen in a long time. But I will
We
say,
have Hezbollah
assuming
and Iran potentially getting
Yeah.
involved.
And again, it might even be the case that they're not interested in getting involved, because I think Hamas have bitten off more than they can chew. I don't think they expected to grab and hold on to territory. Palestinian militants have never done that, not even in 48. I don't think they expected that, and now they're just going to get maybe they'll just get abandoned, because again, a lot of these groups, it's not like Hezbollah and Iran are as committed to the Palestinian cause as people think they are. But it's so assuming that the PA can actually be taken back into Gaza. I think the big problem there, as far as goodwill coming from both sides, would be that the Israeli right are not going to go away. It might not be Bibi, but they're not going to go left after this. The problem now is, I think the Israeli right needs to figure out what the fuck it wants, because it seems to be that what they've wanted is to expand settlements into the West Bank, to keep a chokehold on Gaza, and just kind of hope that Palestinians stay in a state of limbo forever, or just kick the can down the road with what happens to those territories. And I think they really need to figure out if that's sustainable, because I think in large part, again, I don't want to put blame on the victim, but in large part, the Israeli right did this to themselves.
Yeah, if actually this is not actually going to happen, but if
wait,
they
why
actually
am I wrong?
do,
Why am I wrong?
Okay.
That I
didn't say you were wrong. I just said oof.
Okay.
The
Israeli
right.
I'm meeting you. I'm pro-Palestine. I was like, damn, that's a spicy thing to say.
I think it's
yeah.
I think that there have been errors certainly on their. I mean, it is true that, for example, a large component of the reason this happened was because the proportion of the Israeli military that was involved in protecting against Gaza had been decreasing because of the settlements in the West Bank. So that component is true. I just don't love the idea, just as a framing, of blaming that on the Israeli right.
I'll say it in a less inflammatory way. It's not just that the IDF were. Yeah, it's not just that the IDF were stretched. They were stretched firstly because of people abandoning their duties because of the Supreme Court reforms. Also because there was so much more settler violence, because expansion of settlements means you need to have more security in the West Bank.
No, I understand.
So they were stretching themselves thin. The Orthodox demographics, but also we know now that Netanyahu was allowing funds to go from Qatar into Hamas because he believed that Hamas and the PLO having a rift was good for Israel, because it destroyed the concept of a Palestinian state. We know this. He said this is part of our strategy for 6 or 7 years.
I understand how you get there, and I understand everything that you just listed there. I think is fully accurate. I have no qualms there. I just don't love the idea that therefore that we would blame the Israeli right rather than blaming the people who did it. I'm not quite comfortable going that far.
But he just said that
virtue signaling aside, we get what he meant, right?
But he's saying that they actively,
he said to a certain degree,
they actively supported that. They actively supported that the power of Hamas. So if you are funding money into that, and then they do something fucking insane and hurt and kill a bunch of people, and they're like, see, look how bad they are, you can't blame us, but you were literally trying to make that happen the whole time. That's not a good dispelling of that.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this is a tale as old as time at this point, of Western governments involved in radical groups funding them because they don't like the other power structure in the Middle East, and then all of a sudden the radical group gets a little too out of control, and lo and behold, it became a problem.
Hang on, is that what's happening in this situation
at the Middle East? I mean, we know for a fact that
I don't think this
Hamas
is just the U.S. funding a far-right government.
Okay, that's not what I'm saying. What Lonerbox and I are both admitting, because it's just factually true, is that Netanyahu funded Hamas because they thought it would be a good counterbalance if Islamists were fighting with secularist Marxists, at least in their point of view, right? That these two factions would have disagreements amongst each other.
Okay, I can agree with
each other to bring them to the table, and that it turns out that probably wasn't a great idea, i.e., Gaza. But that doesn't also mean that I mean, take that in isolation for what you will and apply it to the arguments as you see fit. That's just a fact.
If they just stopped trying to undermine Palestine the whole time, and they actually and this is not going to happen, but if they actually, it's the right wing in Israel, if they actually saw Palestinians as human beings that are equal and deserve the equal rights to them, and we want to accept them into our own, that would probably do a lot to make Palestine want to accept the Israelis as equals, and either side could start with that. But I mean, that would be the real actual.
I mean,
solution.
that's a great. That's that's like a great Disney film. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
I have
it's
a
like
question about
one
that
of
stuff.
us has to trust
That's like
the
some
other
fluff.
first.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
no,
I get what
okay,
you're saying. That, like,
wait,
it
wait,
might
wait,
be
wait.
true.
But it's true.
Yeah.
Okay, if I can get in real quick. I mean I understand what you're saying. That like it's a Disney film, but like what Smith is saying is right? Like that we've had 70 plus years. For some reason, this goodwill has not been built between these two people. We need to find ways to do that, right? What are the strategies to doing that, right? The strategies to doing that are probably going to be, like we said, like restoring water, restoring power. Probably another strategy is going to be like actual outreach, right? From like maybe even IDF into like the Gaza area and building relationships with people in there, providing services for them, like I don't know, providing like ways to get to know these people. Like it is a real thing, and we have to start thinking about that. If I don't know, if things don't go to complete shit, and we like have to like deport like massive amounts of people to a place elsewhere, we should probably think about like which is super likely we're probably gonna have a deport. I
You're
don't know if
talking
it's the
about-
right word, but
So with
yeah.
that's an excellent segue into the third question. So what do you view? So before Fabian waffles for another fucking 3 hours, okay? What do you view as the ultimate outcome of the conflict? If you were to give a prediction for the end of the war, quote unquote war, what would you see the end to be? Do you support American interventionism in the conflict, or any kind of foreign intervention? Stop! Do you want me to mute you forever? Or any kind of foreign interventionism at all? What kind of prescription would you apply, and from which country? Now, I want to add upon a few more questions. All right. So adding on to what Stardust have said, right? For example, do you see a prescription such as, so for example, in the past, there are some countries out there who have historically had a lot of conflicts, but they have united through key economic actions such as trade. Especially, the first action always has been trade. Once you begin trading with people, that is how you begin bringing people together. And especially when it came to the Dark Ages, the Enlightenment was brought upon Italy via the Crusades. When they began venturing out from Western Europe, the Crusades, they brought back a lot. They were like, oh my God, all the Arabic people, they actually study the sciences and the arts. We have been living in these squalor times all this time. There's a wider world out there. So my thing is this. Do you see a prescription that is similar to like a kind of people building, this bond building between these two people, or is this not possible anymore simply because the world has already been too discovered, or has already been too interconnected, and at this point the blood runs too deep? At this point, it just seems like annexation is just going to happen. It's just going to be over, and the gas chambers are just going to come back. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah,
Okay.
I guess
Can I have a
begin
clarification
discuss.
about that? Can I just have a clarification about that question that you had in relationships to Stardust? Are you talking about Israel in general, or are you talking about specifically Jerusalem?
What was the
Like in relation to
reason
trade,
we're talking
because like in
clarify?
relationship to trade, I don't think that trade has anything to do with Jerusalem. I think that's like strictly a religious question, and I don't think that there's any trade issues that you can get around that. Trade certainly is a component in relationship, like a lot of stuff for the West Bank and for Gaza and for Israel proper, but I don't think it has anything to do with Jerusalem specifically.
Okay, I think that's up for debate. So I mean, you guys can just go ahead and discuss that. So
Okay,
So
cool.
if I'm real, like I don't have much hope for this. I would like to see I would like to see something like 2 United States under one nation or something like that. Or if they can't do that, it would have been great if when they first started this all, they like made like a secular state that was like maybe because probably the people existing there probably wouldn't have liked it being called Israel. Made a new name for it. Two people just like living in a kind of secular state, but maybe founded upon Abrahamic values, kind of like a lot of other places. But
Pal's real.
Pal's real.
Yeah.
But I don't think that would work. But I think we're too far gone for that. I don't think it's ever happening. I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I've heard people say that they think it's just going to be like tons of like Palestinians are going to have to be like taken as refugees in different places in the world, and that they're just gonna there's no solution and that it's like fucked. But I am hoping with all of my heart that they are able to to solve this situation with as little civilian casualties as possible. So
Realistically, I think the only way this is going to end is through foreign intervention, because the problem is with this situation, it's not just 70 years of baggage, it's thousands of years of baggage. We talk about how we have the far right in the United States, and the far right is trying to do all of these psychotic, crazy things. Within Palestine, you literally have a group of people, a large group of people, that believe Jews are evil, they have control of the Holy Land, we need to kill all of the Jews and take control of the Holy Land again. No matter what, you are not going to change that. And every airstrike, everything that Israel does, you are justifying Jews are evil, come join us, let's fight back. So no matter what, the majority of people in Palestine are going to hate Israel. And then when you look on Israel, Israel aren't going to play nice with Palestine because majority of Palestine want the death of Israel and they want the Holy Land back. So the only way to put an end to this now is through foreign intervention. It has to be foreign nations coming in, telling both sides to stop, say, guess what? We fund both of you motherfuckers. We're not going to fund you anymore. You need to fucking stop. We need to calm down. Things need to just chill the fuck out. And then after that, make sure there's no wars, there's no bullshit for 40 years, and then maybe you can try to build relations. Maybe you can build it after that. But right now, with every airstrike that takes place, you are justifying the religious right on both sides to commit their horrible fucking actions. And it's never going to stop until foreign powers say it needs to stop.
So I think that there's I don't see a path to get from where we're at to get to perfect peace, but I see a first step that is necessary as a prerequisite to getting from where we are to closer. And that is that Saudi Arabia needs to be the sort of the representative on the international stage on behalf of the Palestinians instead of Iran. And to get there, you need to have people other than Hamas, which is explicitly controlled at some degree, but certainly endorsed at another degree and sort of involved with Iran. And I think that Saudi Arabia is much better ally. They're Sunni. The majority of people in Palestine are also Sunni. And I think that that's the first step. I think the second step is to try to have much more market integration within the West Bank between settlers and Palestinians. And I think that the third step is to try to figure out a way. The majority of people, Jews who live in the West Bank, live within 5 miles of the border, but there are some settlements that are much further in. So like places like Efrat, for example, I think that there needs to be an attempt to get Efrat to probably be disbanded and probably get returned back to Palestinians, but that those borders need to be simplified. And that's going to be a really difficult and arduous process, and it's going to take literally decades to do. And unfortunately, people are going to die when that happens. But I think that is the best pathway forward to recognize that within those 5 miles, those are legitimately part of Israeli territory, and the places like Efrat are not legitimately part of Israeli territory.
I had the same idea as Avius, except I think kind of like was telling myself it's a dumb idea, but I think it's a good like thought experiment. I don't know if it's actually a good idea, but like sanctions, like if we sanctioned both and said like, well, until you guys get along, like you're cut off from like United
Well,
States
let
like
me
economy.
clarify my statement. I don't think you can just do sanctions. I don't think sanctions are going to stop anything. I think you act like best case scenario, the US literally needs to deploy troops. The troops need to be in the middle of the fucking border and they need to say quit it. Like realistically, I think that's the only way we're actually going to see shit stop. If you don't do that, the conflict is going to continue for another 100 years.
I feel like that
Wow.
would just make us become part of the war, like because there would be a lot of killing of American
Why not? We're in
soldiers.
every other war.
Yeah.
I felt like I was getting radicalized, but this is mental. I feel like intervention is definitely needed to some degree, and it's not like we haven't done it in the past. Assuming Hamas goes away, PA comes back to Gaza and the West Bank. I think Abbas is probably going to die of old age soon, so there will have to be elections for the PA. On the Israeli side, I absolutely do not trust the Israeli population to vote like in a way that will lead them to peace. Like I can understand why they're like that. Like I'm very empathetic to like all the fear and why they feel like they need to go right wing and to be stronger. But I don't think the left of the world can like hold their hands forever. I think they do need some kind of foreign power to like twist their arm a little bit. And I mean, that's been done in the past, right? Bush Senior, during the Second Intifada, Bush Senior managed to drag Israel to the Madrid Peace Conference. The way he did it was that there was a 10 billion loan guarantee that he froze and said, you're not getting this loan unless you halt settlement building and you come to the peace conference. I think America has been way too soft on Israel for too long. Like these UN votes where like every country in the world will condemn settlements and it's just the United States and Israel saying, oh, actually settlements are veto. You know, it's like, yeah, that position needs to stop. And I think America can actually play quite an important role in going forward.
Yeah, I think that the first and most important thing is to just make sure that the Saudi Arabia deal goes through. Do you agree with that?
I mean, that's assuming Israel doesn't become an international pariah while they get rid of Hamas, right?
That sounds
Right, but
good
that's
from
my
the way
question.
you're
Like,
describing
like,
it.
regardless of how what's happening in Gaza resolves itself, do you recognize that regardless of how it comes, that the best way almost is going to require that Saudi Arabia have peace with Israel?
Yeah, Middle East normalization is important. Yeah, like generally, yeah.
But specifically,
even before this week, like Israel and Lebanon, like the Lebanese government were like making steps forward when it came to the Mediterranean. So yeah, of course, like that's a big part of it. Because if it was just Israel and Palestine, it'd be much more simple because Israel is like the huge majority power holder. But the problems with all those Middle Eastern countries surrounding is a big part of it. Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah, it is. 100%.
But ultimately, because I know that there's been a lot of like both sidesing throughout this entire conversation, but like at the end of the day, Israel has the power like to make the first move when it comes to a path towards peace, and America has even more power to get Israel to do that. So, yeah,
agreed.
So when we talk about there is a feeling of inevitability here, right? Like it's difficult to know if there ever. It's hard to know because the youth is so incredibly indoctrinated, right? I mean, you can see videos of like children at playgrounds in Gaza that are just like, I can't wait to drive a truck, to kill the Jew, and like you see the same thing, from many of Israelis. Personally, I don't give a fuck about settlements. I think it's perfectly legitimate to take land and build and homestead and push into territory because that's the only way to properly establish property. I'm not I get that that's like a losing issue pragmatically between world governments, but like it is, as far as I'm concerned, the most peaceful way and the only peaceful way to gain land and territory is to build land and then get attacked by crazy people and then fight to protect your land and then you just gain more land. It's basically the only ethical way to territorially expand. But I recognize that that's like a losing thing. In terms of like what solutions are available, I think Lebanon, I don't know that it necessarily proves, but I think, the track record shows pretty consistently that a one state solution is almost always off the table. It's in the question. I don't think anyone here really considers it seriously. Just like, because even when they, like I said, even when Lebanon attempted to do it, it's fine so long as Jews or Christians have a majority of the demographics and control and power. But the moment that the Muslims get close to like 30, 35, 40, 45, and they're not reaching the same level of success that Christians and Jews will inevitably outpace them on economically, et cetera, it will become, an oppression racket. It will become almost certainly a civil war, because that's just kind of what happens when Muslims, get a majority of population. So yeah, in terms of predictions, I think the predictions are kind of, I don't know, maybe I don't want to say silly. I just I don't fucking know. I don't think anyone really does. I mean, best guess, sure, I'll guess what the rest of you guys are guessing. And what I said before is that maybe, the burning of goodwill brings more people to the table simply because it puts the PLO in a better position.
I can't imagine this ending soon. It just doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
No, it'll be.
I mean, what does ending mean?
Decades.
You know what I mean?
I mean, the war in Gaza for one.
Yeah. So like exactly. That's what I mean. Like, what do you mean by ending? I'm just curious. When you say this ending, do you mean the animosity and like the tension? Yeah, I agree. But do you mean like open conflict?
Any
like that
resolution? Any resolution to the open conflict, that for one, but also just any resolution. Like, I think it matters to keep just getting worse. I don't see anything ever getting better.
What do you mean by resolution?
So like, we're talking about 2-state and 1-state solution and shit like that. Like all. If we have a 2-state solution, it's going to happen after like it gets way worse.
Yeah, unfortunately, the closest parallel I can think of is India-Pakistan, and India-Pakistan is somewhat resolved, but the way it resolved itself is through incredible ethnic cleansing on both sides, and it's a horrible, horrible, horrible resolution.
Yeah.
So that's the reality
to the
of
British. They did it 2 times at least. Well, no, not 2 times, plenty of times, but we can count 2 right here. So,
Yeah, I'm super. I mean, yeah, the British did a great thing. It's a good thing that they colonized. It certainly helped you guys get your shit together. That's for sure.
No, it's fine. That you know what? It's not that. It's like when you're leaving. It's like we didn't fuck shit enough. It's not. We haven't fucked shit enough. So while we're leaving, let's just do one last thing.
3 cheers for colonialism. Dinesh D'Souza's paper. It's pretty fun.
So I have
in all seriousness, I mean, like, yeah, it's just there are better ways to do it.
So I have a question. How do you guys feel about do you guys think that there is possible anti-Semitism when it comes to addressing like current events, and especially like if you guys do agree that if there is anti-Semitism, just how much is there, like, for example, I've seen some people say that, when people say free Palestine, 10% of the people who say free Palestine are, anti-Semitic. They want to kill all Jews. But some people say 5%, some people say 2%. So where do you guys see the dog whistling? Where do you guys see that, like, what percentage is it now? And do you guys think it's significant to a degree where, oh my God, anti-Semitism is on the rise? And is this something that we should be concerned about, at least here in America or in the West, if not in America, Go ahead.
Go for it.
Well, I was just going to say, this is actually part of my contention with President Sunday, was because there was another content creator online.
Because he's a Jew?
No. But nice one. No, because there was another content creator online. This is like just like a day or 2, just maybe a day after or 2 days after the initial attack by Hamas. And at this point, or at least at the point of like a rally happening, Israel had not done anything in retaliation yet. And this content creator had expressed concern over their safety. And I thought it was, reasonable. There has been a rise in anti-Semitism. We'd be fucking blind to not acknowledge that. We would be fucking blind to not acknowledge that there are going to be some people who are pro-Palestine who do believe in some anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. I mean, I was in the pro-Palestine club in college. I saw it, I saw some of those conspiracy theories that I see sometimes still in the far right today, right? So yeah, we have to be reasonable about this stuff. And that was one of my major contentions with him, because he was trying to make it out like she was racist and that she was only doing this because it's brown people on the other side, which is super fucking stupid. But I guess like what I would say is that I can't really put a percentage on it. It's there. And just, given looking at Twitter, how many of the far right are like are kind of really hopping onto this topic and only exclusively tweeting about it and covering it in their streams and stuff like that. Yeah, we have to acknowledge there is some anti-Semitism there.
Shout out to Sneeko.
Yeah.
Shout out to
Yeah.
Sneeko, shout
So-
out to the Groiper, shout out to
Shout out,
Zerka,
yes.
shout out to
Shout out to all
yeah,
of them.
pretty much literally it's censored man on Twitter. There is so much and it's so weird to me because I will see leftists on Twitter, and I don't think they're doing this intentionally, but obviously not. And some people, to be fair, can be anti-Semitic. Okay, wait, let me finish. Okay, some people
Obviously, there's no one's ever intentionally anti-Semitic.
Okay, look. No, there are people who are anti-Semitic who can acknowledge that in themselves and still are anti-Semitic, and then there are people who are anti-Semitic who don't realize that they're anti-Semitic, and or that they're saying anti-Semitic things and they don't realize that they're saying anti-Semitic things. What bothered me immediately after the Hamas attack, just like hours and then maybe a day after, is that there were so many people online who were like justifying it. And then I went and I looked on Telegram and I looked at like the NJP, and I looked at them like putting a thing out there saying, how would you feel if this happened to you? And it was showing the map of Israel that all the leftists are putting out, and Palestine shrinking, and they were like, how would you feel if this happened to you? And then it's like America and like the that shrinking, and I was like, you know what I'm talking about, the color shrinking. And so I'm like, I can see how this rhetoric is being used like pretty badly on by multiple people. And I would check other people too. But yeah, I think we have to and some delusional stuff too, right? Like people saying like, oh, I would be safer in this area than I would be in Texas, where it's like, no, I don't know about that. With the spread of Wahhabism and the amount of all of that, right? I don't know about that, but what I would say is people need to have good reasons for believing what they believe in. You can acknowledge that that not all of the beliefs of certain people are savory. Not all of the beliefs of a certain group of people are going to be to your liking. They might not even like you. They might fucking hate you, and you can still come to the realization that they probably don't deserve to be like fucking wiped out. They probably don't deserve to have like their homes taken from them, their homes destroyed. They probably don't deserve to be like starved out, right? And
you see anti-Semitism and it's bad. We got it.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So I think that there.
I thought I was giving a nice explanation, Fabian. You go on forever and ever, but God forbid I do it, and then
I thought it was fine.
Oh,
Yeah,
I have no problem being the asshole. You were just
It was getting a little. It was getting a
No.
little long-winded.
Stardust, do you want to put a bow
I
on
thought she
it?
gave me a lot to think about.
Fabian, you are literally the king of long-winded. You don't get to talk jack
True.
shit. Okay? You and your fucking
Yeah, I am
Luigi
indeed
looking
long-winded.
ass.
Oh my God,
Okay,
not meta
you
again.
look like fucking Luigi, and you talk like you're Mario,
Oh my God.
like the fucking main character. Okay, shut the fuck up. All right,
Mario.
So-
You're just helping us along. I'm just helping us along. Huh?
you're not helping us. You're the side character. Shut
The
up.
reason, okay, and the reason in my intro that I gave like my spiel about how like ethno-states are bad, and how like without one you'll just dissolve into the global culture, and that would be ideal if just Jews became American, became Canadian, became whatever. We wouldn't need an ethno-state. The reason I gave that is because I think that we need to have healthy criticisms of the Jewish ethno-state type stuff, because if we allow conspiratorial thinking to be the only criticism that there is of Israel, then like you need like, you know, healthy criticism, or else people are gonna fucking go crazy.
Mario,
I think
Luigi, look
it's
at
quite. It seems quite clear that like anti-Semitic hate crimes
Japan's
went up
pretty-
quite a lot in the last week. I think if you want to understand left-wing anti-Semitism, people who are left-wing anti-Semitic, like they're not motivated by the same kind of anti-Semitism that you usually expect, right? They don't typically believe in the Jewish cabal controlling finances and blood libel and all that shit. Like that's why it's not really like they're motivated by anti-Semitism. It's that they're
in the black
motivated by
community, it's like
black
Yeah, a little
leftists.
no, not like Anarchata,
Like Nation of Islam, right?
mean,
Those are rightists.
yeah, like Nation of it, like
Yeah.
like
So, but I'm
why
saying
didn't-
I'm saying when it comes to
find that will believe
I'm
that,
saying when
though,
it comes to left-wing anti-Semitism, the consequences of what a lot of them do is anti-Semitic, but it's not motivated by it. So, like to them, it's like they are just dogmatically opposed to the imperial core, right? Like like the United States, and Israel's an ally of the United States, and also they hate white people. And to them, they think all Israelis are white, which is actually not true. It's not even like a third of them. And then that's why they have that. They're okay to just be carte blanche to be a total shithead towards Israel, like Jewish people and Israelis, and that's why you get that phenomenon of like every time you're in a Free Palestine organization, there's like one person who sees someone else with a Star of David necklace and they decide to purity test them like extra hard on it. So in a way, Jewish people are actually really alone, right? Because the right wingers attack them and the left wingers don't care.
I think that when I think about anti-Semitism, yeah, you're right. The way that you're defining conservative anti-Semitism, I think I'm broadly on board with. I think that the anti-Semitism of the left often comes out as an understanding of Jew and Israel as being the same, which is something that often right-wing Jews will try to play into as well, in order to sort of force, I think Lauren touched on this pretty interestingly earlier on in the panel, where she was saying that like, there's this pressure for her to sort of be putting stuff on Twitter as soon as something was going on, because there's this pressure to make Jews be the same as Israel. And I think, frankly, that often people who believe themselves to be on the left, and perhaps even believe themselves to be on the left in good faith, do that. And frankly, Sock Done Left is an example of that. So if you look at what you posted in response to someone who's very far right, I can put this into the chat. You posted this thing that I think is quite clearly. I'm sorry, that's my search. That's not the actual thing. Here it is. You posted in response to Ramspal, who had a picture of Chris Christie at the Kotel. And he said, quote, "It is bizarre that American politicians are required to publicly submit to a foreign country," which is just on its face absurd, because that's not what's happening. What's happening is a man is in prayer. And then your response was, "That's a great point. Will you be supporting the leftist wing of the Democrats, the only political group willing to reject Israeli apartheid, or you'll be supporting the Christian nationalist Republicans because you love Israeli racism and want it brought here," right? And then you have a picture, again, at the Kotel of Donald Trump. And I think that it's really important to recognize that, when someone is praying to the Kotel, they're praying to the Kotel, right? They're a Jew in prayer. And it is not a statement on Israel. And when someone on the far right is making a claim that praying at the Wailing Wall, at the holiest site in Judaism, is to, quote, submit to a foreign country, you as someone who's on the left, at least purportedly, have an obligation to recognize that is not what's happening, that is a man in prayer.
Yeah, so when I say that's a great point to a Nazi and say, "Hey, your politics is garbage," that's the point of the reply. That the right
it's
in
not
America
because your
also
picture is also
pro-Israel.
of a person in the Kotel.
Right?
Why is your picture there of a
routinely-
person at the Kotel?
Because Trump was
show that they're
enormously
pro-Israel?
pro-right. Like, and Trump
Wait,
is
why is
pro-Israel.
hold up? Why is? But that's my point. Why is a person being at the Kotel state that they're pro-Israel?
He went there in part of he was recognizing the capital as
Why
Jerusalem,
is
I
going?
believe,
Why is
during that
praying
visit.
at the Kotel pro-Israel?
It's him. Is he not answering the picture with another picture because the guy in the top is right wing and he's showing that like the Republicans are worse for this, right? Or
So,
that they
but
do the same.
question is why is
I'm just going to say, if you guys have opened up this picture, I think this is maybe a stretch. Might be a red flag. It's probably a stretch, right?
If you're trying to get a picture,
Can someone else
of,
see?
if you're trying
I
to
don't
get a
care,
picture,
so I'm not opening it.
Okay, if you're trying to get a
Sigma.
picture
What about you, Lauren?
of Donald Trump,
Let me take a look.
if you're trying to get a picture of Donald Trump, quote, submitting to Israel, why do you not have a picture of Donald Trump? Gee, I don't know, with Bibi Netanyahu, at the Knesset, right? At some Israeli site, but it's not at an Israeli site; it's at a Jewish site.
The whole point is supposed to be that, like, the top post is American politicians are required to submit to a foreign country. Trump, who Rams Paul is a Trump guy, like through and through. Whatever it is, I don't care. Some Nazi guy is super pro-Trump. I checked it, and Trump is like, it's the point is to recreate the exact image.
So is he Nazi
I'm just
or is he
mirroring it.
pro-Trump?
Okay,
Those two are like-
but the
No,
point,
he's
the
actually
point of
a
what
white
Rams Paul is
Yeah,
doing
he's
there,
like a
the point of what Rams Paul is doing there isn't to say, hey, here's
Ramsey
Chris
Paul.
Christie. Ramsey Paul, I'm sorry. The point of what Ramsey Paul is doing there isn't to say, here's an example of Chris Christie doing such and such a policy on behalf of Israel. What he's saying is Chris Christie is an example of a person who is praying at the Kotel. And your response is, oh, look, Donald Trump also prays at the Kotel. And the only solution to getting someone who doesn't pray at the Kotel is to get someone who is on the far left of the American political context. That is absurd.
Well, it's not about getting someone who doesn't pray at the Kotel. It's get someone who is opposed to
Basically,
Israeli
Then why is
apartheid.
the picture of a guy
The
praying
whole
at the
point,
Kotel?
the whole point is that this guy
Why is
isn't
your picture?
opposed to Israel or whatever. They want what
Why is
Israel
your
has.
picture?
They want to bring it here. They want to do the same thing. They want to build the ghettos. That's the
Why
point.
is your wait? Where are the ghettos in your picture? What are you talking about?
Oh, I
There's no ghettos
apologize.
in your picture.
Next time
The
I'll write a
pictures of the
tweet and I'll
Kotel.
include some footnotes about like the relevance of mirroring in imagery, and I'll write some footnotes
if you
about.
responded,
This
if you had responded with a
This is a
picture
dumb
of
quibble.
Trump standing next to Bibi Netanyahu, that is not the same as him praying at the holiest site in Judaism.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's some valid criticism here. I could have used a better picture of Donald Trump. I'll take it. Okay. Can we move to
Didn't
a
you
realistic point?
mirror a different photo?
Yeah, he was just mirroring. That's what I thought it was.
Okay,
not
Yeah,
that
that's
offensive, yeah.
literally just.
The Kotel is not the point.
your
It's that they're doing the
response-
exact same thing. That's the point. Ah!
If your response to a person in the far right saying, "Hey, right, Israel and Jews are the same, and therefore we should attack Israel and by extension Jews," right? Which is exactly what Ramsey Paul is saying in that picture and that tweet. And your response is, "Hey, I agree. We should attack Israel. We should attack Jews, but the way to do that is to
You're kind
do
of
it
inferring that
through the
second
far
part.
left." That's
Okay,
he has a picture of the Kotel.
Wait a minute.
But
Can I
wait,
say
but
something
then-
here?
Example.
but
here,
American
he has a picture
presidents,
at the Kotel.
Woo, one at a
American
time.
presidents,
Thank you.
American presidents praying at the Wailing Wall. Is that what it's also called?
Wailing Wall, also called the
Yeah,
Kotel, yeah.
That's American presidents do that as a ritual of like a show of solidarity to Israel. That's why I think Israel
With
got
Jews,
annoyed because
not with Israel, with Jews.
I think Israel got annoyed at fucking Biden not doing that though, right? Because isn't that part of Biden's policy of being like not as strongly
I
loudly
think that there's a
in favor of
difference
Israel?
between someone going to a black church or going to any other church across the entire country, which every single president in living memory and before living memory has done, right? And going to whatever it might be, a cathedral, right? Something that is an important religious site, and doing something that is, oh, here's a picture of them with Bibi Netanyahu, right? That's not the same. Those aren't the same picture.
Can I interject here? Can I let me just interject here real quick. So I am sure SEL knew what Ramsey Paul was saying in that picture, right? And I honestly, it says it's bizarre that American politicians are required to publicly submit to a foreign country. SDL, I think, was just using the dude's own language against him, essentially, right?
Right, and his idea of submitting to a
Well,
foreign
JQ.
Wait,
Let's start us finish, Quibbles, or I'll mute you.
I understand Quibbles. I understand it's about submitting to the Jews, okay? I know that's what he's trying to say. We all know it, okay? What SDL was doing, now you may not agree with this, but SDL was doing was basically taking his language and saying, yeah, you know what? You're making this point. Well, what about this? And then just mirroring the image. I don't think it's that bad.
Right, he's saying that it's
I will
submitting
say,
to a foreign
wait a
country.
minute, let me finish.
Let her finish.
Let me finish. Jesus fucking Christ. Holy fucking shit. Okay.
Don't worry, I muted him.
Okay. I don't think like necessarily the worst thing in the world, but at the same time, we do have like a whole bunch of like far right people who are like super pro Palestine and well, I don't know. I'm not really quite sure if Ramsey Paul is like pro Trump anymore, but yeah.
We just see in terms of politicians, though, like the
muted.
liberal politicians are much less supportive of Israel than the conservative politicians.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
no, and
lose.
I'll agree with that. But like, I don't know if this is like, I understand why he's doing it, and I get it, but I'm not sure it's like super worth the time, just because we already have like a bunch
long
of
virtue statement.
yeah.
I think that accepting the framing
essentially.
of an anti-Semitic remark and just accepting the framing and then saying, "Oh yeah, anti-Semitism fine, but let's talk about Israeli apartheid," I think is a thing that you're accepting anti-Semitism, right? That is what he's doing.
Yeah. So I agree with Quibbles. I agree.
Sometimes when you talk to people on that
You're
side of the internet,
accepting the framing of the
no, wait a minute.
anti-Semitism.
Let me finish what I'm saying. Let me finish what I'm saying. Sometimes when you talk to people on that side of the internet, you try to communicate the way that they communicate. Whether that's right or wrong, I can't say. But
I don't think that communicating as they communicate requires that you say, yes, submitting to a foreign country is a problem for American politicians to do.
Do we agree to disagree on this one?
Of someone doing that by being at the Kotel. I don't think that praying at the Kotel,
like, dude, this is circular. You said the same argument like 20 times.
An example of submitting to a
We're
foreign
not getting
country.
anywhere. You've said the same thing like 20 times. We're not getting anywhere.
Okay,
right?
So he's right. Like, what you guys are all saying it like fucking stupid. The thing is, people like fucking Giga Chad move. Okay, what you were doing was a Giga Chad move. I don't think you're actually anti-Semitic, but what you were doing was you were opting into anti-Semitic rhetoric to make a dunk on somebody. And so I don't think you're anti-Semitic at all. But when you do that, it does bolster the anti-Semitic like fucking ideas. Because you're saying, well, by your logic, and it's by your logicking people.
Point that I'm trying to communicate.
Oh my God.
The broader point that I'm trying to communicate, both in the case of SDL specifically, but in terms of the left more broadly, is that very often in trying to propel a narrative that is anti-Israel, they will accept the anti-Semitism of people who broadly are potentially willing to agree with them, which is to say people like Ramsey Paul, who are genuinely anti-Israel.
Okay, you're waffling. Wait, Quibbles, I'm going to start to cut you short.
He's right.
And so the point is, the point that I'm making is that SDL in this case and other people like him are willing to accept the anti-Semitism of the right in order to propel their anti-Israel narrative. And so therefore it is different, but it is at the end of the day, it is still anti-Semitic.
Quibbles, you have 5 seconds.
I think a good way to explain the anti-Semitism, like the recent, especially the tanky left when it came to supporting Hamas, is because they see themselves as they're always anti-colonialism, right? And like Israel was, like it or not, founded on some pretty brutal conditions, and then they still continue to expand settlements, and then obviously because they're a side with America, they're always going to take the side against Israel. So they will say that Israel is what you call like a settler colony, and then they'll say that, the thing to do against settler colonies is to use like lots of armed violence like they did in fucking Algeria or Haiti. And then that's why all the people living in Israel are justified military targets. And then the party that makes that statement is fucking Hamas. So they end up carrying water for an anti-Semitic organization. But it's not like, none of that reasoning is motivated in and of itself by anti-Semitic feelings. I think that's I think that more broadly explains like left-wing anti-Semitism. But, yeah.
So the good thing is that Quibbles is not the only Jew on this panel, and Lauren De Laguna is the other Jew that is on this panel. So I sort of want to ask Lauren De Laguna's opinion on this matter, since Lauren De Laguna, as we all know, is incredibly based.
Jewish.
Okay, so Lauren De Laguna, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, so I didn't. It's weird because my grandma's a Holocaust survivor and she's extremely left, like extremely left. And I never understood that because, I think I look at the squad, like AOC, Ilhan Omar, and they are constantly voting against against anything that would support Israel, or they're abstaining their votes. They even cried when the Iron Dome was refunded, which is literally just for the purpose of protecting the Israeli people. There's not a single conservative politician nearly as anti-Semitic as anyone in the squad. And I don't even want to hear Marjorie Taylor Greene. Just because she thinks that we have space lasers does not mean that she hates us.
Oh, come on, man!
The coolest shit, okay? So I want more people to think that I have space lasers. Anyway, that being said,
I disavow that, by the way.
now that I'm hanging out with, now that I'm doing content creation and hanging out with conservatives, the only time I'm meeting Nick Fuentes is when I'm hanging out with conservatives. The only time I'm meeting, the only time I'm hanging out with people who are genuinely hateful towards Jews. The only time I've ever been called an ugly fucking Jew and they're gonna beat my ass because I'm a fucking Jew is when I was hanging out with conservatives. So it's
Those aren't conservatives.
Wait,
I just
SDL.
want to clarify.
SDL gave a crazy reaction there, so I want to give SDL the space after your statement. Sorry, Lauren, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I think that thinking that Jews control the world is way worse than being opposed to Israel, which is what MTG thinks. No matter how much she walks it back, that's the point. The Jewish space lasers is not just, the Jews managed to build this one space lasers. It's that they control, everything about the world. That's the point.
They control the space lasers.
I think
how
they will burn California.
How could you say?
I want to talk to Lauren's point there about the difference between someone explicitly just calling you, a kike or whatever. I'm sorry, are we allowed to say that on YouTube? I assume we are.
No, I don't care.
I don't think that was funny as shit.
That's your word. That's your word.
It's your word.
It's your word.
But I'm not sure if we're allowed to say it on YouTube. I'm sorry. But
I'm saying that for the YouTube.
I give you the T pass as a trans person. I don't care.
Oh my god.
I wasn't going to say that. Okay. I think there's a difference between someone using anti-Semitic remarks to you and someone trying to build a narrative that is anti-Semitic. And so, an equivalent that I would think about is there's a difference between the way that a northern racist in Connecticut talks about 2-acre zoning, which is coded, right? Versus the way that someone in the deep South might just use the N-word, right? But it doesn't mean that 2-acre zoning isn't racist. It doesn't mean that when someone like SDL takes that narrative and allows it to be permeated,
God. If you go back here, you little bitch,
and builds off of it in order to build a broader narrative that is anti-Israel, that he's not trying to build that anti-Israel narrative off of a basis of anti-Semitism.
Look, all I would say
is already clear. No one else on this panel has done that. I just want to be clear. Yeah.
I would take a reasonable guess that I've been called a Jew more than anyone else here because I spent years debating fucking Nazis and they are convinced that I am Jewish. Okay. I hear it literally. All I would try and say is the goal here is not to try and build an alliance with the right. When I'm saying some shit under a Nazi and I'm trying to mock how dumb their beliefs are, the idea that Israel controls America, no, it's the other way around. They're our puppet in the Middle East. We're the superpower. That the reason that our politicians go there is because evangelicals are fucking insane.
Anybody that doubts that, just remind them it's our rockets that are killing them.
You made a dunk that relies on anti-Semitic fucking notions to be a dunk.
Okay, so
I think the whole point is that
I've sat back on the antis. I've sat back on this one. So if I could interject, because I haven't even. So in terms of how I feel about anti-Semitism in this current discussion is, look, obviously when media or attention focuses on a specific conflict in Israel or on Jewish people in general, you're going to see a rise in crime and anti-Semitic remarks, right? People kind of come out of the woodwork when emotions get inflamed or when it's just at the forefront of the conversation, right? So a lot of people that are harboring some form of feeling, you're going to see more of it in that moment. What I think is far more important to understand, and I've been doing a lot of combating against other libertarians because almost every libertarian I know is just like fuck Israel, they in quotes and shit, and so like they're all convinced I'm fucking Jewish as well. But regardless, yeah, it's the same
Shalom,
thing.
brother.
It's like no, I just disagree with you on like this on the JQ shit. I think what's important to really understand is I don't know how many of you have read it, but reading maybe some George Samel and understanding like the concept of the stranger, because I think the Jew is still the stranger from a sociological perspective. And because of this, Jews tend to be canaries in the coal mine in terms of the way the political winds shift, which is to say that as you begin to see more anti-Semitism, these things very often correlate with a rise in socialism and communist and Marxist rhetoric on the left, as well as the right's reaction to it, right? So very often what you'll see is as socialists gain power and put themselves in institutions, you do see the kind of the right. The right doesn't go towards right wing when threatened by socialism. That historically it's never happened. What? Right? The right never becomes more right wing. Instead, what they become is more.
Fascism. That's the whole.
They did that.
Fascism is left.
Germany. Like fear of communism was like one of the big things that the
Lauren's
Nazis
gonna
ran
go.
on.
Wait, Lauren's gonna go. All right.
I want to go.
Heading out, Lauren. Thank you for coming on.
All right, bye,
Yeah,
Lauren.
thank you so much.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I want to
Bye,
say
Lauren.
things before I go, though.
No.
I just want to say thanks for having me, and I also want to say learned a bunch of shit from some people, and
It was me.
yeah, Israel didn't.
It was
Didn't
nice to
think
see you again,
about
Lauren.
I couldn't hear what you said.
Shit, so I heard it from y'all, and I'm going to rewatch this and learn more. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh.
Bye.
Irish
All
exit.
right.
She went
Bye-bye,
Irish
Lauren.
on
I
you.
like her a whole lot. She's so
Just
cool.
to finish,
She
what
is
I think
cool.
is important to understand is that when you as the concept of the stranger, the Jew has its own identity, right? And I mean that at an individual level, not like the collective level, right? It is you are a secular Jew, or you are a religious Jew, or you're an Orthodox Jew, and it's kind of the same situation that Marx had in his critique of Judaism and his hatred of his own Jewishness, right? Is this idea that by having that identity as a Jew, it is kind of a almost reactionary in the sense that it stops you from developing the critical consciousness that's necessary to the utopia. And so what I mean to say is that, like, I think it's when you begin to see anti-Semitism on the rise, is I think is really a marker for political winds changing in terms of political polarization, in terms of institutions being captured by socialism. And then that often becomes the right's response, is to look for the stranger as a means to blame, right? When the institutions start to become more socialist, that's when you start seeing the right going, it was always the Jewish communists, right? It was always the Jews that were controlling things. It's the Jews that are the problem. And so I think it's really important that we pay attention to anti-Semitism, because I think it's the most, not necessarily the worst form of bigotry, but it is the most informative form of bigotry in terms of understanding how the political climate is changing and what's occurring within the culture.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go, guys.
Yeah, I think the informative.
I want to go
Take
too.
care.
Bye, Loner.
I broke all the Jews with that one.
Long-winded statement. God damn it!
Yeah.
You went too long. You broke the panel. Do you see what you did?
Yeah, who's the long-winded one now, bitch?
Yeah. See?
At least I said something of value.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
okay?
shit, people
You
are
said the
listening
same
after.
shit that everybody else said.
You went on for like 3
guys.
minutes about anti-Semitism is bad, and I see it.
3 minutes every time you fucking speak, bro. Like,
All right, I'm
what
gonna
are you
head out.
talking about?
Nice.
All right.
It was
Okay.
a nice.
Yeah, of course. Thank
chat.
you. Thank you for coming along. See ya. Bye.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry, big tech. I'll message. Here, hold on. But everybody's leaving because everybody's exhausted now. But I will message. All right. Okay. Well, I have one last thing for y'all. Yeah, it's just right before. All right, baby, let's go. Let's go. I got one last thing for you guys here. All right, let's go, baby. What did I do? Everybody fucking left. Don't fucking boo me. 'Cause as I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw below me that golden valley. I'm a little bit tired for this. I have not played the guitar in so fucking long. Let's get to the good part. As I was walking, I saw a sign there, and on that sign it said no trespassing, but on the other side it didn't say nothing. That side was made for you and me. We got love happening in the chat. I'm glad I could make that happen for you guys. Okay. See you next time, Smith heads. Thanks.